Spoiler warning, it's going to be dirty. Stop this episode now if you don't want to hear this.
Hello and welcome to the Rob Burgess Show. I'm, of course, your host, Rob Burgess. On this, our 64th episode, our returning guest is Jonathan Fowler. Regular listeners to the podcast will be familiar with Jonathan, as he's by far our most frequent guest. You first heard Jonathan Fowler on episodes 2, 10, 20, 21, 29, 30, 31, 32, 34, 35, 43, 48, 51, and 56 of the podcast. Jonathan graduated with a BA in History from Indiana University in 2006. He's an unabashed left-wing political junkie. He has lived and worked in South Korea for 10 years, trying to help the citizens of that great nation, hopefully, talk pretty one day. And now, on to the show.
Hello.
Hey, Cha.
Hey, Bob, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing pretty good, all things considered. How about yourself?
Well, my long work week is finally over just 30 minutes ago, so I'm doing all right too, I guess.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so crazy week, huh?
No kidding.
By the way, congratulations on your daughter.
Thank you. Yeah, she's wonderful. Thank you very much. Yeah, I got a long episode with Ash all about the intricate details of all that, dropping within a few hours. So,
okay.
I have a feeling we're going to want to get this one out as soon as possible too, because things are changing very rapidly.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's been a crazy week politically, but yeah. But I'm impressed that you've been able to continue with the podcasting during the week. I mean, as well as doing your regular job during the week that your daughter was born. That's, yeah, a lot of dedication.
Yeah, I was home past midnight the last two nights, and I got a week off, but I could have used more. And then when I got back, like literally the day I got back was Thursday. And I was already James Comey had already testified in the morning, and I got there at 1 p.m. and I was like, so did I miss anything, guys?
yeah, quite a testimony. I think I was watching, or I was listening to I was listening to it live, basically, on YouTube, on what is it, what's that TV channel everybody says is boring? C-SPAN. Yeah, C-SPAN's website. Hasn't been so boring this week. I mean, they had the James Comey thing, and then the same day they had what's his name? That guy who looked like a penguin, Puffin or whatever.
Puffin?
Ted Cruz. They had Ted Cruz get yanked off the stage at his Christian thing. That was fun.
So what I want to say to the men and women here is two things. Number one, thank you. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your passion. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. Thank you for speaking out and working to retake our nation.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the Southern Regional Director of Faith and Freedom Coalition, Virginia Galloway.
That was some righteous vindication.
Yeah. He was not done talking. He got jabbed. He got jabbed.
Yeah. It was.
They're kicking me out.
Veterans Affairs get cut off, like Social Security, maybe Medicare, and others. They stop. But the benefits inside the Department of Veterans Affairs continue, which is, it's like it's like a nightmare after a nightmare. And it took them 9 months to fix it. This is a real story here in New Hampshire. I can promise you the best way to show respect outside of rebuilding our military to men and women uniform is to fix that mess as fast as I can. That's it. Thank you. They're kicking me out the door. They're kicking me out the door.
Governor, thank you very much for joining us today. I believe your schedule has a hard stop.
People said he got played off, but I think played off would have been more dignified than what happened to him.
Yeah. That woman who came out there to take his place, she was like, nobody gives a shit what she said. But it's just like, she's like, I'm going to talk now. And she looked so proud of herself. It's like, I don't know. Whatever. I'm sure it was all very pointless and everything. But yeah, it was enjoyable to watch. It's what Ted Cruz deserves every day of his life.
Yeah. Did you see the sad pictures that he took when he went to the White House after his father was called an accomplice to JFK's murder, where Trump was sitting at the desk with like the thumbs up, and like his children have to like crouch nearby, and like at one point back in the campaign, Trump threatened to spill the beans on Heidi.
Yeah, I remember that. I guess he finally got around his anger about his family being insulted repeatedly by Trump. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't remember that one particularly. I remember, what's his name? Mormon guy.
Oh, Mitt Romney.
Mitt Romney. And actually one thing, this is one of those thoughts that kind of kicked around. I mean, have you had a chance at all to go over the testimony, or have you seen highlights and stuff at least?
I've intensely listened to the first 30 minutes. I will listen to the remaining 2 hours, and I've caught probably most of the important parts of the rest that I haven't listen to like every single word of. So I will. By the time this airs, I will have listened to it all. So.
Yeah. I listened probably to the first hour and a half at least, maybe 2 hours, and at some point I think I just passed out. It was 1 o'clock in the morning over here, and I was tired. But I missed John McCain's, for example.
Yeah. I missed that too.
I thought the next day.
In the case of Hillary Clinton, you made the statement that there wasn't sufficient evidence to bring a suit against her, although it had been very careless in their behavior. But you did reach a conclusion in that case that it was not necessary to further pursue her. Yet at the same time, in the case of Mr. Comey, you said that there was not enough information to make a conclusion. Tell me the difference between your conclusion as far as former Secretary Clinton is concerned and Mr. Trump.
The Clinton investigation was a completed investigation that the FBI had been deeply involved in, and so I had an opportunity to understand all the facts and apply those facts against the law as I understood them. This investigation was underway, still going when I was fired, so it's nowhere near in the same place. At least it wasn't when I was.
But it's still ongoing.
Correct. So far as I know, it was when I left.
That investigation was going on. This investigation is going on. You reached separate conclusions.
No, that one was done. That
investigation of any involvement of Secretary Clinton or any of her associates is completed.
Yes, as of July the 5th, the FBI completed its investigative work, and that's what I was announcing, what we had done and what we had found.
Well, at least in the minds of this member, there's a whole lot of questions remaining about what went on, particularly considering the fact that, as you mentioned, it's a, quote, big deal as to what went on during the campaign. So I'm glad you concluded that part of the investigation, but I think that the American people have a whole lot of questions out there, particularly since you just emphasized the role that Russia played. And obviously, she was a candidate for president at the time, so she was clearly involved in this whole situation where fake news, as you just described it, big deal, took place. You're going to have to help me out here. In other words, we're complete the investigation of anything that former Secretary Clinton had to do with the campaign is over, and we don't have to worry about it anymore?
With respect to Secretary, I'm a little confused, Senator. With respect to Secretary Clinton,
Yeah.
we investigated criminal investigation in connection with her use of a personal email server.
I understand.
And that's the investigation I announced the conclusion of on July 5th.
So, but at the same time, you made the announcement there would be no charges brought against then Secretary Clinton for any activities involved in the Russia involvement in our engagement in our election. I don't quite understand how you could be done with that, but not done with the whole investigation of their attempt to affect the outcome of our election.
No, I'm sorry. We're not, at least when I left, when I was fired on May the 9th, there was still an open, active investigation to understand the Russian efforts and whether any Americans work with them.
But you reached the conclusion that there was no reason to bring charges against Secretary Clinton. So you reached a conclusion. In the case of Mr. Comey, the President Comey, excuse me, in the case of President Trump, you have an ongoing investigation. So you got one candidate who you're done with and another candidate that you have a long way to go. Is that correct?
I don't know how far the FBI has to go, but yes, that the Clinton email investigation was completed, the investigation of Russia's efforts in connection with the election, and whether there was any coordination, and if so, with whom, between Russia and the campaign, was ongoing when I left.
You just made it clear in what you said. This is a, quote, big deal, unquote. I think it's hard to reconcile. In one case, you reach a complete conclusion, and the other side, you have not. And you've, in fact, obviously, there's a lot more there, as we know, as you called it, a, quote, big deal. She's one of the candidates. But in her case, you say there would be no charges, and in the case of President Trump, the investigation continues. What has been brought out in this hearing is more and more emphasis on the Russian engagement and involvement in this campaign. How serious do you think this was?
Very serious, but I want to say something, be clear. We have not announced, and there was no predication to announce, an investigation of whether the Russians may have coordinated with Secretary Clinton's campaign. Secretary Clinton's campaign.
No, but they may not have been involved with their campaign. They were involved with the entire presidential campaign, obviously.
Of course. Yes, sir. And that is an investigation that began last summer, and so far as I'm aware, continues.
So both President Trump and former candidate Clinton are both involved in the investigation, yet one of them, you said there's going to be no charges, and the other one, the investigation continues. Well, I think there's a double standard there, to tell you the truth. Then when the president said to you, you talked about the April 11th phone call, and he said, quote, because I've been very loyal to you, very loyal. We had that thing, you know. Did that arouse your curiosity as what, quote, that thing was?
Yes.
Why didn't you ask him?
It didn't seem to me to be important for the conversation we were having to understand it. I took it to be an effort to communicate to me that there is a relationship between us where I've been good to you, you should be good to me.
Yeah, but I think it would intensely arouse my curiosity if the President of the United States said, we had that thing, you know. I'd like to know what the hell that thing is, particularly if I'm the director of the FBI.
Yeah, I get that, Senator. Honestly, I'll tell you what, this is speculation, but what I concluded at the time is in his memory he was searching back to our encounter at the dinner and was preparing himself to say, I offered loyalty to you, you promised loyalty to me, and all of a sudden his memory showed him that did not happen, and I think he pulled up short. That's just a guess, but I've a lot of conversations with humans over the years.
I think I would have had some curiosity if it had been about me, to be honest with you. So are you aware anything that would believe you to believe that the President whether members of the administration or members of the campaign could potentially be used to coerce or blackmail the administration?
That's a subject for investigations, not something I can comment on sitting here.
But you reached that conclusion as far as Secretary Clinton was concerned. But you're not reaching a conclusion as far as this administration is concerned. Are you aware of anything that would lead you to believe that information exists that could coerce members of the administration or blackmail the administration?
That's not a question I can answer, Senator.
Senator's time's expired.
But yeah, but like there was a part where, they asked him about this, like, has Russia been doing this? He says, yeah, they've been doing this. They've been doing this for a long time, and they're going to continue to do this afterwards. Mm-hmm. And I was almost wondering, I almost wondered because in the 2012 election with Romney had said, like, our greatest geopolitical foe was Russia.
The former governor of Massachusetts, Mitt Romney. Governor, thanks very much for coming in.
Thanks, Wolf. Good to be with you.
The president of the United States is in South Korea right now, had a meeting with the Russian leader Medvedev, and he was heard with an open mic. It's always dangerous for these politicians or leaders to be talking near an open mic. He was heard saying this to Medvedev, the Russian president. Listen to this.
This is my last place, basically. Yeah, after my election, I have more flexibility. Yeah. Okay, I understand. I transmit this information to Vladimir and Alexander.
All right, in case you didn't hear it, this is my last election. After my election, I have more flexibility. That is a factual statement that the president is making. If he doesn't have to worry about getting reelected, he doesn't have to worry so much about domestic politics. Is there anything wrong when it comes to national security issues to be saying something like that to the Russian leader?
Yeah, there's something terribly wrong with that. It is alarming. It is troubling. The agreement that the president put in place with regards to nuclear weapons is one which I find very, very troubling already. The decision to withdraw our missile defense sites from Poland put us in greater jeopardy, in my view. The actions he's taken so far, which he says are to reset relations with Russia, have not worked out at all. Russia continues to support Syria, supports Iran, has fought us with the crippling sanctions we wanted to have the world put in place against Iran. Russia is not a friendly character on the world stage, and for this president to be looking for greater flexibility where he doesn't have to answer to the American people in his relations with Russia is very, very troubling, very alarming. I'm very, very concerned. I think the American people are going to feel the same way. This is a president who is telling us one thing and doing something else, and is planning on doing something even more frightening.
Well, when you say even more frightening, what's he planning on doing, in your opinion?
Well, my guess is it has to do either with nuclear arms discussions, or it has to do with missile defense sites. What he did both on nuclear weaponry already in the New START treaty, as well as his decision to withdraw missile defense sites from Poland and then reduce our missile defense sites in Alaska from the original plan. I mean, these are very unfortunate developments. And if he's planning on doing more and suggest to Russia that he has things he's willing to do with them, he's not willing to tell the American people. This is to Russia. This is, without question, our #1 geopolitical foe. They fight every cause for the world's worst actors. The idea that he has some more flexibility in mind for Russia is very, very troubling indeed.
Well, you think Russia's a bigger foe right now than, let's say, Iran or China or North Korea? Is that what you're suggesting, Governor?
Well, I'm saying in terms of a geopolitical opponent, the nation that lines up with the world's worst actors. Of course, the greatest threat that the world faces is a nuclear Iran, and nuclear North Korea is already troubling enough. But when these terrible actors pursue their course in the world, and we go to the United Nations looking for ways to stop them, when Assad, for instance, is murdering his own people, we go to the United Nations, and who is it that always stands up for the world's worst actors? It is always Russia, typically with China alongside. And so in terms of a geopolitical foe, a nation that's on the Security Council, that has the heft of the Security Council, and is, of course, a massive nuclear power, Russia is the geopolitical foe. And the idea that our president is planning on doing something with them that he's not willing to tell the American people before the election is something I find very, very alarming.
And so I almost wonder if that would have been something where, I know famously Putin doesn't really like Obama or Clinton very much, but you almost wonder if the Russians would have put their fingers on the scale for the Democrats in 2012, because Romney had come out and said that they were the number one geopolitical enemy.
Yeah, they're very utilitarian in that way. They don't really have any allegiance, and really the last offense of Trump, which is going to come to the fore more and more with the diehards, is they're gonna say that even though Russia colluded and it was in Trump's favor, and he, to whatever degree encouraged that, good. I'm glad it happened. Glad the other thing didn't happen. I'm glad they intervened in what you think we're so innocent, basically.
Respect Putin.
I do respect him.
Do you? Why?
Well, I respect a lot of people, but that doesn't mean I'm going to get along with him. He's a leader of his country. I say it's better to get along with Russia than not. And if Russia helps us in the fight against ISIS, which is a major fight, and Islamic terrorism all over the world,
right?
Major fight, that's a good thing. Will I get along with him? I have no idea. It's very
He's a
possible
killer,
I
though.
won't.
Putin's a killer.
A lot of killers. We got a lot of killers. Why, you think our country's so innocent?
Yeah. Well, it's obviously it's a dangerous question to ask if the Russians helped Obama in 2012, but I'm not, afraid to ask that question because obviously it's entirely clear that if they did anything, they did not reach the levels that it had reached this time. They were not as brazen. They were not as, they didn't put their fingers on the scale as much if they did anything.
But Chai, you heard Putin, maybe it was his patriotic hackers, feeling that national pride.
Yeah, that's why I get so angry when I see people still saying, you guys with the Russians, the Russians didn't do anything. It was all Hillary. Like, no, Hillary was a disaster, and I'm not out here defending Hillary any day of the week, but
yeah.
But it was the Russians. They all but admitted it, right? Putin says, okay, it might have been some Russian patriots. That's as close. He's never going to come out and say, yeah, I ordered it. But that's as close as you're going to get. And that's him winking and nodding and trolling the American public and saying, maybe I did, maybe I didn't, Somebody did something. It was one of us. So, that whole talking point has got to go away. It was the Russians. It was absolutely the Russians. They were doing something. We don't know exactly what, although it seems like we have a pretty good idea.
Well, I don't know if you want to get into this yet, but this is the problem with the Trump thing is like there's no way to keep track of everything that's important because things just fall through the cracks. But reality winner, we got to talk about her.
Yeah. That's I think that's a good thing. The frustrating thing about it is she's getting charged with espionage, which is a joke. She's revealed something that the American people should have known. Because as long as the American people don't know what she revealed, would you like to summarize what she revealed, the document she leaked?
Basically, previously undisclosed levels of infiltration from the GRU, which is the what's the opposite of predecessor? The successor agency to the KGB, the GRU.
Okay.
They basically inserted malware on the county clerk websites, voter registrations in, I believe, 138 locations. They don't actually know how far they got. And I think that's the important part to note. I actually wrote a column about this back when. Do you remember when Jill Stein and them launched that recount effort right after the election in 3 states?
Yeah.
Okay. So they only completed 2 of those. I think it was Pennsylvania that never even got off the ground. But the other 2, Michigan and I think Ohio, they found massive irregularities in the small number of places they checked in those states. And so I think we have to grapple with the fact that we may be living in a world where the Russians actually infiltrated our voting systems. And I think we have to seriously question whether or not we have a legitimate president. And I don't say that lightly at all. Like I don't think anyone should shirk away from that fact. And I think that all evidence points to that. And senators have backed this up too. They've said, I know more than the NSA thing, and it's even worse than that. So I don't think I'm in the wrong for like going in that direction. We haven't checked in a lot of places. We just don't know. There hasn't been a full recount. Yeah. Trump's launching this voter fraud thing with this conspiracy theorist, and he's totally trying to distract from the real issues. Anyway, you go ahead however you want to respond to that. But
yeah, well, we've got an illegitimate administration, and I don't restrict it just to the president, because if the president won the presidency illegitimately and we impeach him or whatever we do with him, and then the vice president comes in, he's also an illegitimate vice president. So, and quite frankly, at different points in American history, I mean, you can imagine in the 1950s, late 1940s, the 1980s, at any of these points, if there's evidence of Russian cooperation with a certain party, or if there was evidence that the Democratic or Republican Party was helping cover up for cooperation with the Russians or benefit from the Russians, that party would be in dire trouble. But for some reason, the Republicans are able to let it roll off their back right now, it seems like, for the time being.
For the time being. I mean, the real question is, how long can they do this? I mean, how long can they balance themselves on top of the bouncing ball? When are they going to fall off? And when is the whole thing going to get... Because I have a feeling when all this gets exposed, it's going to happen so fast. And we're not even going to be prepared for it. Like, it's just going to be like this earthquake level event in our society when this all comes tumbling down. Because as we pointed out, this is a house of cards. The Republican Party is propping him up. Without their help, he has no power. And I think that's we have checks and balances in this country as long as checks and balances mean something. They don't mean much right now. And for very cynical reasons. And I question the patriotism of anyone who, on the Republican side, because, I mean, this is the party of Reagan. You're telling me Ronald Reagan would be happy with what's happening in the Republican Party right now? Give me a break. Yeah.
Yeah, I did think all that Reagan worship they were doing a couple of years ago, up until the 2016 election, basically was, they were in love with the idea of Reagan, but perhaps not the person of Reagan, actually. Mm-hmm. So, at this point, I mean, they can hardly say anything good about Reagan, because Reagan would obviously be, if you're a Republican Party throwing their lot in with Russian, influencers and interferers and so forth.
I don't know about you, but I'm old enough to remember when people on the left were baited with red baiting, and called sympathizers of the Soviet Union if they were too soft on this or that, So, I mean, that was an attack line that was not in the very distant past used on people of the other political persuasion, but just because it's convenient, just because it's adjacent to what you want to have happened, you're going to go with it. I don't know.
Well, there's there's three directions I kind of want to go from here, and I guess the first thing to note would be that I read an article in Indy Star recently that 6 Indiana counties were affected by this VR systems company that had been, hacked or whatever. They'd been swordfish or whatever the hell they call it. And I believe those counties were...
I think spearfishing.
Spearfishing, yeah. Floyd County, Cass County... hold on, what are the other ones? Montgomery County, Vanderbilt County, Vigo County, and Wayne County. As far as I know, I think that those are the 6 counties in Indiana, let alone the other 49 states. But I think that those are the 6 counties that were affected by this. Cenk Uygur on the Young Turks, I think he has said, he's made a pretty clear distinction between the idea of saying, the Russians hacked the election versus the Russians used propaganda in the election, or the Russians may have colluded with Republicans during the election. He's been pretty clear about making that distinction. And I'm very curious to see how he reacts now that it looks like, no, there was actual hacking of the companies in charge of vote voter machines or voter, it gets pretty granular, the details at that point. But this is getting pretty close to. And some people say, well, they didn't change the vote totals. It's like, well, we don't really know what they did, and frankly, it's probably maybe somebody knows it somewhere, but it's classified, which is another direction I was going to take it with the reality winner leak, alleged leak. I think the most dangerous thing right now to America is overclassification, because a big part of the American democracy is an informed public. But we have an uninformed public, we have a misinformed public, and we have information out there that, government agents know about, and private contractors who are, sourced to those or assigned to those doing jobs for the government agencies, they know about them. And every now and then something gets leaked. But, the government knows about this stuff, and they've been allowing the American people and the news corporations to argue back and forth about Russian hacking and Russian influence and all this stuff with incomplete information. And how much better decisions do you think news and Americans would be making if they had access to the full information? I mean, not the full information necessarily, but like the information that is pertinent. That yes, we know they did this. They did more than we've revealed so far. I mean, this information just needs to be out there. I mean, to the degree that it doesn't endanger human agents who might be operating in a foreign country, and to the degree that it doesn't compromise ways that we are gaining information on our enemies at this point, so that they can change up and do that. But at the same time, we can be getting the information from them from one way, and if we reveal how we got the information from them, they're going to change up. We're going to lose that way. But at some point, that doesn't mean you never reveal that way. That means when a bad enough thing happens, you reveal that way because it becomes important enough. And I think them swinging an American election is bad enough and important enough. And now it's time for the Americans to be able to make an informed decision about what the next step should be with Russia, because and the whole time, Donald Trump is trying to ease sanctions on them. Give them back the property that Obama took away from them inside of America.
I saw an Instagram post on the official Donald Trump Instagram that was like a 3-photo collage of him with Kislyak and them, and it was like the caption was like, "Let's make peace!" !
Yeah,
it was sickening, because I mean this is a country that has attacked us, and we're gonna just invite them in more than someone who's actually our ally, like Germany.
Yeah, this guy, like people have pointed out, this guy says he's a great deal maker. Well, as an American president, with this kind of thing, you should have leverage over them. You should say, okay, we want to have a better relationship, but you just basically did an act of war, cyber, in our country. And so any negotiation we're going to have is going to start from a standpoint of more sanctions, more NATO, more, but Trump doesn't want to do that. And the reason is probably because he's already gotten his half of the bargain. Right? He's already accepted his half of the bargain. He got the presidency. They gave him that. And who knows what kind of blackmail they've got on him. They're still saying that the urine tapes with the Russian prostitutes have not been confirmed. But that's the only thing in the Steele document that's still unconfirmed. And I would bet every dollar in my bank account that those tapes exist somewhere.
I don't know if you've been listening to the Sam Harris podcast, but Sam Harris has confirmed on his podcast that the tapes of him saying the N-word and outtakes of The Apprentice are real. Which were long suspected. And we all knew that was true.
You know about the rumors that there's Apprentice outtakes of Trump using the N-word with an impressive lack of self-consciousness, and that these tapes were not leaked by Mark Burnett and others there based on some political calculus. I happen to know, to a moral certainty that those tapes exist. Can't really say how I know that, but I'm willing to say this publicly. I'm I know they exist. So you can imagine something analogous to the Mark Furman tapes during the OJ trial.
And just like we knew that was true, this is like, as we've said before, we did a whole episode about the Steele document. We feel pretty confident to say that is true.
Yeah, there's some comedian, I forget who it was, but he said there's certain things in life, and he goes through a list of them, kind of like Jeff Foxworthy style, where he's like, I don't know it's true, I just know it's true. I think it might have been Bill Maher.
Yeah.
Speaking of Donald Trump, and hopefully next year we won't anymore.
Thank God.
We started a segment on this show a couple of years ago called I Don't Know It for a Fact. I just know it's true. It was those things where like, I can't really prove it, I just know it's true. And I realized this is Donald Trump's whole campaign. But we claim this first, so we're going to do it one more time this year.
Speaking of another politician or comedian who recently used the N-word.
No, adults dress up for Halloween. They don't do that in Nebraska?
It's frowned upon. Yeah, we don't do that quite as much. But
wow, I've got to get to Nebraska more.
You're welcome. We'd love to have you work in the fields with us.
Work in the fields?
That's part of that.
Senator, I'm a house nigger. No, it's a joke. Thank you. You're still working in the fields out there, huh?
Yeah, we want our kids to suffer.
Yeah, I just listened to the follow-up episode after he did that. Over that.
Well, first up, he's a professor of sociology at Georgetown University, whose latest book is Tears We Cannot Stop, A Sermon to White America. Michael Eric Dyson. What are you? Uh-oh, I can see. All right. Now, Micah, you've sat in this chair before when you were the newsmaker. Unfortunately, this week I find I'm the newsmaker. Yeah. I wanted you to come by here because, I want you to school me. I did a bad thing.
Yeah, well, that's a great place to begin, Bill. A very bad thing.
Yeah.
But look, in the past, you've been the person who has been on the front line saying that the left shouldn't apologize. Progressives should resist any sense of complicity with a culture that is too apologetic. And yet you find yourself on the hot seat here tonight. What led to that change of mind?
Oh, and I thought you were going to be easy on me. And you should. No, that's true. But, honestly, I've said both. I remember when Mitt Romney was running, he had a book, No Apologies. Like America should never apologize. And I said, no, apologies are sometimes appropriate. There is a lot of bullshit apologizing in America, and I am against that. But, we shouldn't apologize for slavery and Japanese internment and Abu Ghraib and Indian genocide and Tuskegee and a million.
Right.
So when it's appropriate, this was appropriate. Because I'll tell you why. Because for black folks, that word, I don't care who you are, has caused pain. I'm not here to do that.
Right.
Now, the guy who was here, it's not his fault. I feel bad about him, the senator. It's all on me. But he said a weird thing. The comic mind goes to a weird place sometimes.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter that it wasn't said in malice. It wasn't. If it brought back pain to people.
Right. Well,
and that's why I apologize freely, and I reiterate it tonight. That's sincere.
Right. But look. But you're used to those cheers.
I'm not that big of an asshole.
All right. Well, you're used to those cheers, but you got to understand. Now, I've taken a lot of heat, people saying you're a coon, you're a sellout. Why would you dare go on the show with your guy who's your friend? Because they figure that I'm going to be complicit with you, that I'm not going to challenge you, that this is an easy pass. But do you understand why people are skeptical and the pain and the suffering? Look, when you made the point about the House and then black people were saying, look, it's not as if black people in the House were any better off than people in the field. Both of them were subject to slave dominance, hegemony, hatred, rape, and the like. And as a result of that, people think that that's insensitive.
But surely you must know all that was not going on in my mind.
Right? Well, of course.
And as far as to your question about you're going to... Look, I know we're friends.
Right.
And that is not a greater bond than your bond with the black community. I hope we're friends forever, but anyone who knows you knows you're a straight shooter.
Right.
I mean, I feel like I got Robert Mueller here. You know.
Right.
Well,
let me ask you this. So one of the things that, you know, the book you mentioned is about white privilege. I talk a lot about white privilege. When I was here before, I spoke about that. And people believe that one of the things you did last week was an unconscious reflex. Nobody was ascribed to you any malicious intent, but that's the point, right? That it grows out of a culture that reflexively identifies that particular word with some heinous acts in history, and so they think it's a matter of privilege that it doesn't happen. Let me read you something that my son, a well-known authority on this, this is what he texted me. He said, I know white boys like that who get a pass, who earn a pass from the work they put in, but the coolest and most honorable white boys are the ones that choose not to act on that pass because they understand the history, pain, and insensitivity behind the use of the N-word. So do you truly understand the need to name and to challenge that unconscious white privilege that exists and how it hurts black people, even if unintentionally?
Yeah, but of course, I think I do. I mean, we're all evolving. We're all who we are.
Right.
By the way, this happened once.
Right.
A guy said a weird thing.
Right.
I made a bad joke.
Right.
Yes, it was wrong, and I own up to that.
Right.
But, I mean, it's not like I've made a career of this.
Right, right.
You know, it's not like I went out there last Friday and said, oh, I'm going to break some new ground tonight.
Right, right, right.
You know, it happened, and it was wrong, and people make mistakes. We're all sinners, and we got to, you know. So, but I totally get that. Look, I mean, we are all evolving at the pace of day by day. I grew up in an all-white town in New Jersey, not Alabama.
Right.
That's the country. I was born in 1956.
Yeah.
I grew up in New Jersey in the 50s and 60s, and race wasn't even an issue. It didn't exist.
Right.
We were, except my parents told me the right thing about it.
Right.
And I've tried to, by the way, portray the right thing about it.
Well, there's no question about that.
Which you have said.
Well, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here.
Yeah.
There's no question. But here's the issue. You just put your finger on an extremely important point. So that those people over there, right? We think about in the age of Trump. We think about the nefarious resurgence of racism under Jeff Sessions and under Steve Bannon. There's no question about that. So that even if your intent is certainly not to cause any kind of pain or horror, you do know that the use of that word then triggered, I think, not only the unconscious, but the way in which black people feel on their haunches now because of the resurgence of racism that the reason I'm here is because you have attacked that. You are the one who said denying racism is the new racism. You're the one who called Donald Trump out on his racism and forced him to show his birth certificate. But what's interesting and tricky here is that when I talk about white privilege in my book, I talk about people who are consciously the allies of black people, but who may also inadvertently, unintentionally, but nonetheless lethally participate in a culture that ends up hurting, as you've acknowledged, black people in a way that has to be grappled with. That's why I think there was so much outrage and hurt and pain. People don't think, oh, Bill Maher is a racist. I don't think most people thought that. What they thought was, if even Bill Maher can at some level capitulate to a level of unconscious privilege, then the rest of us are in a serious spot.
Okay, but look, I'm not here to make excuses, but first of all, the word is omnipresent in the culture.
Yeah.
So the fact that it was in my mind is, you know. Also, is there part of what you're saying true? Absolutely.
Yeah.
As I said, I'm just a product of the country like everybody else.
Right.
But I just don't want to pretend this is more of a race thing than a comedian thing. Comedians are a special kind of monkey.
So to speak.
We are... Don't fuck with me. We are a trained thing that tries to get a laugh.
Sure.
That's what we do. That's all we are always thinking.
Right.
And this is not the first time this has happened. First time on this subject, but not the first time I've gotten in trouble in private, as well as in public, because that's what comedians are somehow wired to do, is like always go, we want to make those people laugh.
Right.
And sometimes we transgress a sensitivity point. I mean, my friend Kathy Griffin, who, by the way, owes me a fruit basket for getting her off the front page.
Yeah. No doubt about that. No doubt.
But, you know, there's a similarity there because, like, what she did, as much as I hate Trump, yeah, that's wrong.
Right.
You don't do that to whoever the president is.
Right.
But, you know, she was going for a laugh.
Right.
And I understand that we sometimes do cross the line. Where I wanted to say to her is, she said, Trump broke me.
Right.
No, he shouldn't, and my career's over. No, it's not.
Right.
You make a mistake, you don't have to go away.
Right.
Everyone makes mistakes.
No question about that. Let me say this.
Kathy Griffin should not go away.
No. You know, I talk in this book, and I think you and I have talked about this offline, that when I first heard nigger said to me, I was a 7-year-old child with my friends in the South.
I reread it this week.
Right.
I mean, I felt even worse.
I mean, look, and it's real because that kind of crashing consciousness that I am different, that I am forever consigned to a different box, relegated to a different reality, so that even with, I think you're absolutely right in terms of the comedic line, you know what people would respond to that by saying, but look, there are trigger points even in comedy that lines you should not cross, as you said, Kathy should not do. And when it comes to race, you know that. I mean, it's not that I'm introducing a new concept to you. You understand that. But the reality is that there are so many people who are vulnerable out here, who are black people, brown people, red and yellow people, who are vulnerable, who don't have the protection of a culture so that their comedians might make jokes. Think about it. I thought about Larry, look, you remember Larry David, one of my favorite scenes from Curb Your Enthusiasm is when a black man comes up to him and says, hey, you my nigga. And Larry David wants to show affection. So he wants to go, he says, are you my Caucasian? So, so what he understood was that's a line he can't cross, and because he understands he can't cross it, even his comedy has to be disciplined by it. Now, as you've already said, the reason I'm here, the reason I'm here is because I'm willing to take the heat for people because I think that the Bill Maher I know has been on the front line, protecting, arguing, standing up for people. You made a mistake, you've acknowledged that mistake, and I think it's important for the nation not to rush past that, but to understand that even as celebrated and as conscientious a figure as you, if you can make a mistake, that means the rest of us can. So we have to grapple with how deeply rooted that is. So for me, look, I know you're not a Christian and you're an atheist, and I'm a Christian, but I tell people often I'd rather work with you as an atheist because you ultimately believe in the principles of justice. But my Bible tells me to whom much is given, much is required. You've been given a great deal, and as a result of the great deal that you've been given, I want to see you continue to stand up and trumpet justice for those who are vulnerable, to reinforce their standing in a culture where you've gone after the powerful and done it in such a powerful way. That's why I text you often every week after the show and say, Bill, you got in their faces again. And in getting in their faces again, that means standing with those who are vulnerable for those who have their rights.
Look, I mean, every quarterback throws an interception.
No doubt, no doubt.
And I try to squeeze them in.
Yeah.
More than most.
Yeah, you're Brett Favre'ing the game there. Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, you know, what bothered me about this is that it cost me a lot of political capital. Yeah. I'll use that term, even though I'm a comedian. But I'm a comedian who's doing something a little different than most, which is, of course, I'm trying to entertain and be popular. That's my political capital. Right. But at the same time, I'm saying things that are sometimes unpopular, even with my own liberal group, which most people don't.
Yeah, we celebrate.
So I'm always, you know, aware of like, well, I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to spend political capital for a cause or a view that I think needs to be out there.
Right.
This wasn't that. This was just a mistake.
All right.
This was just a dumb interception, you know.
Right. Well, no doubt.
So, you know, but again, I've been on 24 years.
Right. Well, there's no question. And the thing is,
it's not like,
as I said, you know, that this would be a teachable moment. It is a teachable moment because you happen to be the kind of person whose conscience causes you to be reflective. there's so many more millions of people who exercise white privilege without any sense of consciousness and who refuse to own up to that in a way. And I think whether or not you intended that to be the case, it at least opens up the possibility that we can have that conversation. And I think that's a consequence.
You mentioned a few minutes ago the fact that I introduced that phrase into the language.
Yes.
Denying racism is the new racism.
Yes.
I mean, a vast majority of Fox News viewers think racism doesn't exist.
Right, that we've made it up. That we've made
and
it
that
up.
the real problem is reverse racism.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, there's a lot of work to do, and your book talks about let's get to what people can really do.
Yeah.
Because you talk about reparations and you talk about reading.
Right.
Just in the time we have left, tell us about those two things, because I think they're important.
And you know, when I talk about reparations, I'm not saying that every white person should give their money to black people, though after the show, if anybody is willing to do that, I certainly want to be available. But I'm talking about practical things. Let me tell you what, some white folk read my book and wrote me and said, look, I took you seriously. I went out and bought some computers that were tore up, that were jacked up. I got them fixed. I took 20 computers over to the local school with African-American people, and they sent me the pictures of them, and it was incredible. So those are the kind of practical things, practical wisdom, practical justice that can be rendered in the name of that. And then reading, look, all of us need to deepen our awareness of what's going on. As you know, Bill, I mean, and you'll have that conversation later, black people ourselves are at war with each other about whether we use the N-word or not.
Yes.
Some people think we should, some people think we shouldn't. Right. I'm not a racial loyalist in the sense of I believe we should be fundamentally aligned to a certain position that says if you believe this and you're legitimate and you're black, and if not, you don't. I don't believe in that. I believe in the same kind of thing you believe in, the kind of irreverence. But having said that, what I also understand is that reading and engaging the world around us, learning something about the world before you, so many people speak about race and they have racial amnesia. They're caught in a fog of dismemory. They want to see the world the way they want to see it. They listen to Fox all day long. They believe that the president is the greatest man, I'm talking about the present president, in the history of the world. And what they fail to understand is that this new age in which we live has certified and legitimated the resurgence of some of the most heinous expressions of anti-blackness that we've seen. And we need you as an ally, and I'm glad we got you, brother.
Doctor, professor,
right.
my friend, thank you so much, brother. Michael Eric Dyson.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to check out some of that stuff tonight and see what the. I heard Ice Cube. Was it Ice Cube was there?
Oh yeah, Ice Cube was particularly hard on him. So
yeah.
All right, let's bring out Ice Cube. He's an actor, producer, an iconic rapper whose historic album from 1991, Death Certificate, is now re-released in a 25th anniversary edition with 3 new songs. Ice Cube. See you. Okay. All right. So I know you're here to promote an album. I know you also want to talk about my transgression. What do you want to do first?
I knew you was going to fuck up sooner or later. I did. I love your show. You got a great show.
Thank you.
You know, but you be bucking up against that line a little bit. You know, you got a lot of black jokes. You know what I'm saying? You do.
Well, against racists. Not, yes.
Sometimes you sound like a redneck trucker up
No,
here
I don't.
Yes, you do.
Now that I
Yes,
gotta,
you do.
No, I don't. That
Yes,
I gotta
you do.
push back on.
All right, it's my opinion.
Okay, it is.
My thing is
I've never
this.
heard that opinion before, but
My thing is this, you know, and I'm cool with you. I like your show, to be honest. I just want to know 2 questions. What made you think that it was cool to say that?
You know, I just...
That's one question.
I just explained, there was no thought put into it. Obviously, I was telling Dr. Dyson, comedians, they react. And it was wrong, and I apologized. And, you know, more than that, I can't do.
I accept your apology. But I still think we need to get to the root of the psyche, because I think it's a lot of guys out there who cross the line because they a little too familiar, or they think they too familiar, or it's guys that, you know, they might have a black girlfriend or 2 that made them some Kool-Aid every now and then, and they think they can cross the line, and they can't. You know, it's a word that has been used against us. It's like a knife, man. And You can use it as a weapon or you can use it as a tool. It's been used as a weapon against us by white people. And we're not gonna let that happen again by nobody because it's not cool. Now, I know you heard it's in the lexicon, everybody talking, but that's our word now. That's our word now. And you can't have it back. I know they trying to get it back. This guy, and I'm not talking about you, Bill. I'm not talking about you, Bill. Okay. But I'm talking about guys who cross the line every day because they got some black homies, they got some friends, they think it's cool. And it's not cool because when I hear my homies say it, it don't feel like venom. When I hear a white person say it, it feel like that knife stabbing me, even if they don't mean it. So, you know, I like your show, and it's a great show. And I just don't know sometimes, is this a political show or is it a show about jokes? And sometimes the jokes, I understand the format and, you know, you guys say it's a comedian show, but this, to me, is a political show. And I think you just have to not step on some of the political messages that you're saying with a joke, because some things just ain't funny, you know what I mean? This is real right here that we're going through. And I'm not trying to get on your case, Bill. I'm telling you, I like your show, I like you. But I think this is a teachable moment, not just to you, but to the people that's watching right now. You know what I'm saying? Dude,
I think the people watching right now are saying that point has been made.
Not by me.
Okay. All right, man. But you made it.
I made it. I'm done. And we can laugh now. We can tell jokes.
Okay. Would you like to?
I mean, I agree with what Ice Cube said, but furthermore, I also think it's about the context in which the joke was made. Like, we know you apologized, but in the context, you essentially, by referring to yourself as a house anything, you attempted to whitewash who was really enslaved in the house. You know, as a white person in America, you would have been the master, the slave owner, not someone enslaved in the house. And it was mostly black women who were enslaved in the house, who were raped, who were beaten daily, day in and day out. They endured physical and mental abuse. And so for a lot of people in America, that was like a slap in the face to black America, particularly to black women. And so I'm with Ice Cube and Dr. Dyson. This is a teachable moment. And in this teachable moment, we have to talk about just educating and taking it farther. Look, this is on the backdrop. We are 2 years shy of the 400th anniversary of the first 20 African people being brought to this continent as slaves. This is on the backdrop of Confederate monuments of the Confederacy being taken down from Charlottesville, Virginia to New Orleans, Louisiana, and people protesting about it. We got to fight white folks on taking down the statues of the Confederacy. This is on the backdrop of right here in LA, not 2 weeks ago, when LeBron James was called the N-word, one of the most powerful people and most known people in the world. And so it's a teachable moment for everyone to understand that it is more than just a word. Black people are literally fighting the systems of white supremacy and institutionalized racism every single day. And every single day. And for some people, it does not matter how much money we make, what job we do. I was literally on the campaign trail with Bernie Sanders. I was attempted to be yanked out of the entourage for no other reason except I was a black woman walking with Bernie. That is an issue. And so we have to remember that we still have some work to do and we still got some farther places to go. Maybe we need to take a group field trip on down to the National Museum of African American History and Culture. We're going to just do it because to put some visuals to the things that we're talking about.
I think that's a very complicated issue, and I think, you know, frankly, I don't know. I think Bill Maher he's one of these people who's an extreme, you know, free speaker. And a lot of people who are complaining about him now have also championed his cause of, no, you can say anything you want. I mean, I think that, you know, freedom of speech is absolute and all this stuff. And I also think I don't know. I think it's complicated. I could see that, like, I mean, it wasn't really a joke. It was just kind of goofy banter he was doing with what was it, Sass? What was the guy's name? I do think, like, I don't know. I read an article by somebody one time who was, I think he's Korean American or something, and he had written something about what he calls, it's his own word, I think, he calls it magic word racism. which is like where a person who has basically never shown a racist bone in their body or something, but they say one magic word that people get offended about, and people suddenly they're like the most disgusting racist you've ever met, and they don't understand, you know. And he says he finds that kind of ridiculous. He says that a person can say a single word. He basically is arguing that context matters, you know. And I do think I think that's important. I think it was kind of ill-advised. I think it's not something I probably would have done on his show if I were him. But I mean,
but he's on live television, and I know that I stress over like what I put out into the world on this podcast, for example. But I have control over what I put out, even in that case, and I still get nervous. Like, he's on live television for dozens of years.
Yeah.
So I mean, and overall, I think Bill Maher has done more good than bad, like far outweighing. I don't see any other late night comedian talking the way he does about certain issues.
Yeah, I mean, my thing is, I mean, some people say we've always known that Bill Maher was racist because of his Islamophobia stuff, and I don't know. I think I like what were we talking about? The podcast, like what's his name? Racist? No, the atheist.
Sam Harris.
Sam Harris. I like his podcast. I like his thinking. I think he's an extremely intelligent guy. But I do worry that he's kind of got, I mean, logically, like if you sat me down with him and I tried to debate him, he would probably run circles around me, I'm sure. But I have a feeling, I can't describe it like logically, but I have a feeling that he's got something, there's something about Islam with him that just, I don't know. I don't know what it is. There's something a little bit beyond what's necessary, I think.
Well, it's not so much the facts you say are wrong at a certain point. It's just like, what are you focusing on in your life?
Yeah, and I do think that he and people like Bill Maher and stuff, they don't give enough perhaps weight to the context. And the context is that, and I think he acknowledges this, but, Christianity has been in some pretty draconian periods throughout its history, and it happens that Islam seems to be going through that right now. And it also seems to be exacerbated by the effects of, post-colonialism worldwide and the past 20 years of war, let alone the past, 70 years of war with Israel or whatever that various countries have engaged in. And,
it's a byproduct of its environment, and I don't think people that have his exact way of thinking take that into account enough. I think that's the major flaw in their argument, because Islam has been around for a long time, and certain, realpolitik factors have only been in place for a couple decades. And I don't think we can completely discount that, especially since he's a person that doesn't believe in free will. I think you should extra get that. That just by dint of where you're born and when you're born determines so much, so.
Yeah, anyways, I have a similar feeling about Bill Maher, basically. I think he's a smart guy. I think he's generally right about religion. I like his kind of irreverent take on it all. But, some people say it's racism sometimes, and I don't fully buy that, but I do think that there's something there that those guys have that's just a little bit more. If they were more anti-Christian, I could understand that, because they're growing up in the context of a Christian society in a lot of ways, although ostensibly we're supposed to be a secular society. And maybe in a lot of ways we are, but...
I think Christian victimhood plays into that, though. Have you seen the Christian outrage about Bernie Sanders just recently?
No, what did they say?
Okay, so there was somebody that was getting confirmed by the Senate. I don't know who, a judge maybe, I don't know. But anyway, the person being questioned was a Christian, and Bernie Sanders apparently picked a fight with him over his religion, making decisions from whatever post he would have.
Let me get to this issue that has bothered me and bothered many other people. and that is in the piece that I referred to that you wrote for a publication called Resurgent. You wrote, Muslims do not simply have a deficient theology. They do not know God because they have rejected Jesus Christ, his son, and they stand condemned. End of quote. Do you believe that statement is Islamophobic?
Absolutely not, Senator. I'm a Christian, and I believe in a Christian set of principles based on my faith. That post, as I stated in the questionnaire to this committee, was to defend my alma mater, Wheaton College, a Christian school that has a statement of faith that includes the centrality of Jesus Christ for salvation. And
again, I apologize. Forgive me. We just don't have a lot of time. Do you believe that people in the Muslim religion stand condemned? Is that your view?
Again, Senator, I'm a Christian, and I wrote that piece.
Well, what does that say?
With the statement of faith of Wheaton.
I understand that. I don't know how many Muslims there are in America. I really don't know. Probably a couple of million. Are you suggesting that all of those people stand condemned? What about Jews? They stand condemned too?
Senator, I'm a Christian.
I understand you are a Christian, but this country is made up of people who are not just. I understand that Christianity is the majority religion, but there are other people who have different religions in this country and around the world. In your judgment, do you think that people who are not Christians are going to be condemned?
Thank you for probing on that question. As a Christian, I believe that all individuals are made in the image of God and are worthy of dignity and respect, regardless of their religious beliefs. I believe that as a Christian, that's how I should treat all individuals.
And do you think your statement that you put into that publication, they do not know God because they've rejected Jesus Christ the Son and they stand condemned, do you think that's respectful of other religions?
Senator, I wrote a post based on being a Christian and attending a Christian school that has a statement of faith that speaks clearly with regard to the centrality of Jesus Christ in salvation.
I would simply say, Mr. Chairman, that this nominee is really not someone who is what this country is supposed to be about. I will vote no.
Mm-hmm. And Christians got extra offended at this. I don't know the details, but the thing for me is it's like the whole Christian ideology in today's world is just like searching for victimhood in a lot of ways. It wants to be martyred,
Yeah, it's part of their origin myth, but or origin story if you prefer. But no, I do think that there's something maybe I've been out of America for too long, but I do feel like there is something on the left wing, and it's on the right wing too, and it's in the Christian, mindset to some degree too, that where everybody wants to be the victim, and there is kind of like a victimhood Olympics. Like if you're this kind of person with these kind of features or this kind of background, then you have a higher level of victimhood than this other person, and so your opinion matters more, or your word matters more, or you have more authority to speak on certain topics. And to some degree, of course, that's true. But on the other hand, I think everybody's a person, and everybody has a right to their opinion. And everybody has a right to say their opinion, and if they've arrived at that opinion via logic and via empathy or trying to put themselves in other people's places, then they're worthy of some level of respect for what they're saying. You can't just shut them down and say, well. But I do think like a lot of people on the left want to be victims in a way or one way or another, but also a lot of people on the right are blind to the fact that they want to do the exact same thing. Like when I was in elementary school, I took shit for not being Christian, not going to church. This was North Carolina in the 1990s. There was a Baptist revival going on. And so, at a young age, I was exposed to kind of some discrimination about my religion, and it pissed me off. So that was a kind of victimhood. But for Christians to say in America that they feel like victims is a joke, because they don't live in communities that are majority non-Christian. They just don't. You put your finger anywhere on the map in America outside of possibly a couple of small places, and they're going to be in the majority. So I just don't think they understand what you know, when you're in the majority, you're not the victim. Like, you could be victims of certain things, but as an individual. But generally, when you're in the majority population, the society is not victimizing you. I mean, interpersonally, there may be something that happens here or there, or something. It might be an uncomfortable incident, or maybe even some sort of discrimination in a way. But I have never been convinced that by their arguments that society is against them, or that they are the victims now, or whatever. But anyways, I don't know. So anyways, yeah, Bill Maher and situation. So I guess getting back to the point, some people say that Bill Maher's always been racist, and we've always known this because he's so anti-Muslim. But I think the thing is, I mean, he can have Muslims on his show, and he'll be perfectly, polite to them and kind to them and talk to them or whatever. I mean, it's not like. And the thing is with Bill Maher, he's notorious for having a thing for African American women, right? I mean, like, he gave $1 million to Barack Obama's re-election campaign.
Well, I mean, to be fair, so did Thomas Jefferson. So.
Well, yeah, he gave money to Obama's re-election.
Yes, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but but the thing is, I think this is where I'm getting back to kind of like the magic word racism. I just think that just the fact that Bill Maher used the N-word in a kind of a flippant, off-color remark, no pun intended, when he was trying to, keep some kind of lively banter going, and the guy said something about him working in the fields. I mean, obviously I can follow the train of logic that working in the fields, slaves worked in the fields, yada, yada, yada. He didn't work in the fields. Like, I can follow that logic. It's not very funny, but I don't know. I just don't think saying one word on TV undoes everything else that Bill Maher has done over the past, his entire life, basically.
I just don't like that people have to go away when these things happen. Like, why do you have to go away? Like, does one thing negate everything else? Like, can we not have a time when somebody does something and then they get a response from it, and then they maybe change their behavior?
Well, I can understand making some people go away. Like when, I was angry at Saturday Night Live when they kept having Donald Trump on as this funny guy to poke fun at himself on their show. Because if you're for example, if you're Rosie O'Donnell, an extreme specific example, or if you're a Hispanic American who doesn't like people like you being called rapists and murderers and drug dealers and stuff, then every time you see this guy on their show, that's going to piss you off, and that's going to remind you that even though he said horrible things about people like you, he's still part of the in crowd. He still gets to have his platform and stuff, So I can understand that, but I think that people who are going after, of course, the counter-argument I already know. I'm a white, cisgendered male in the 21st century, so what the hell do I know about it? So shut the fuck up, right? I know. But be real. Come on. Bill Maher he's not been against blacks in any way, shape, or form for a couple of years. In fact, Bill Maher probably in his personal life, he probably got a hood pass a long time ago. Am I wrong?
No, absolutely.
Black people. And probably they call him what they call him when they're hanging out with him, and he got the mistaken idea in his head somehow. So if you got to do anything to Bill Maher, revoke his hood pass. But beyond that, put him on probation. I don't know what the system is, but I'm just saying. I think probably there are probably factors in his life that gave him the idea that he could say that without it being a huge deal. So, I don't know. Yeah. Anyways, that's kind of my hot take on it all, Bill Maher.
Well, you should listen to the follow-up episode to that last episode. I was so mad though because I downloaded that podcast of it, and then I listened to it, and after I finish listening to a podcast, it goes into a to be deleted state, and if I don't pull it out of the to be deleted state within a certain time period, it is deleted. And then they took that episode away. And I already lost it. I only heard it once. I was like, what?
Well, I mean, on YouTube, you can probably.
Yeah, I already found it again, but it was kind of jarring. I mean, it's like they took that away from the feed.
Yeah. Somewhere I've got an old copy of GTA San Andreas, Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. It still has the hot coffee content locked in it, but I don't know if there's anybody still alive on the planet who can mod my Xbox to the degree that it would need to be to access all that content again. But it gives me a good feeling just knowing it's still there. Yeah. So, but okay. So there was some. We're getting way off topic, but I guess there was some point so like, I mean, one of the arguments I heard online a lot from conservatives was, you just know that if a conservative had said the N-word and not Bill Maher, you libs would be calling for their heads right now. And it's like, yeah, we probably would, because a lot of conservatives, most conservatives who would have said that word, hold a lot of beliefs about black people that they've probably talked about in the past that mean that they have something else backing up their use of that word other than what Bill Maher had. I mean, like, if you're like one of these all lives matter or blue lives matter folks and you say the N-word, well, if you believe you want to hang the Confederate flag everywhere you can, you want to keep Robert E. Lee on a statue post somewhere in the South or whatever, then you have a different attitude towards black people in America in the 21st century than Bill Maher does. And so, yes, we are going to judge your usage of that word differently. It's not magic word racism, but if you hold certain beliefs and you think you can use the word in the same way, it's like, I don't know. I think that's where I draw a distinction between those two kinds of people using the word. So,
well, I mean, and people want to, muddy the waters between the fact that, I get why people do this, but it's not the same. He did go with the A ending instead of the ER. I do want to point that out, and people want to obfuscate that fact, but there is a difference, and I think in the context he was using it, I think he was trying to be less offensive, ingratiating. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think he was coming at it in a malicious way. I think there are Pepe warriors out there who would not do that. You know what I mean? Like, I think we have to make that distinction too. Those people aren't teachable. Those people aren't like that. There's no bringing some of those Kekistan fools back.
Yeah, they're a basket of deplorables. But I mean, on the other hand, I don't think the A ending exists in the context of house N-word, doesn't it?
That was such a dumb. Why did you do that?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So I'm just saying, like, I mean, I think the house jum, like, etc. ends in ER. I mean, I've never heard it used a different way. I mean, like, I don't know. But anyways, yeah. Enough about Bill Maher, maybe.
Back to James Comey.
Yeah.
The 6'8" Boy Scout.
Yeah, I mean, I will say this about James Comey. I think he's a bit of a drama queen. He doesn't mind being in the spotlight. He likes to give his hot take that goes against the conventional wisdom of the day or whatever. I think he probably sees himself as kind of like I'm just totally speculating here, but I have a feeling he sees himself as just kind of like this 1940s G-man. Oh, that's a 50s thing maybe, but like kind of, the 1940s kind of a stoic, well-dressed, always wearing a suit kind of private investigator, just kind of like a serious guy. Right?
Joe Friday.
Who's that?
Dragnet.
Okay. But Dragnet came a little later, didn't it? When was Dragnet?
60s.
Okay. I'm thinking earlier. I'm thinking 40s. I'm thinking like, I don't know. I don't know. Who are some of those big actors, the manly men actors of the 40s and 30s or whatever?
Cary Grant.
Yeah. I think he thinks he's like a Cary Grant kind of guy, which, I mean, everybody has their right to their own image of themselves, but I don't know. He likes the spotlight, but, I mean, what did you think about his explanation for why he said he said the thing, and I know you and I talked about this back at the time, but I think we did, about Bill Clinton getting on the damn airplane with Loretta Lynch when she was in charge of the investigation of Hillary. We said at the time, I'm pretty sure we're on record as saying that was fucking stupid, right? It's like...
Let me go back, if I can, very briefly, to the decision to publicly go out with your results on the email. Was your decision influenced by the Attorney General's tarmac meeting with the former President Bill Clinton?
Yes, in a ultimately conclusive way. That was the thing that capped it for me, that I had to do something separately to protect the credibility of the investigation, which meant both the FBI and the Justice Department.
Were there other things that contributed to that you can describe in an open session?
There were other things that contributed to that. One significant item I know the committee's been briefed on. There's been some public accounts of it which are nonsense, but I understand the committee's been briefed on the classified facts. Probably the only other consideration that I guess I can talk about in an open setting is that at one point the Attorney General had directed me not to call it an investigation, but instead to call it a matter, which confused me and concerned me. But that was one of the bricks in the load that led me to conclude I have to step away from the department if we're to close this case credibly.
Even if he did just talk about his grandchildren, which I don't buy for a second, it doesn't look good. Right? It has the appearance of corruption. And so, if that kind of thing, and when James Comey said that, like, Loretta Lynch had told him not to call the Clinton thing an investigation, but to call it a matter, he said that really triggered him and made him think, oh, God, I'm not going to use the same language that the Clinton camp is using on this thing. What do you think about that? I mean, does that because, like, I've been angry, like most liberals, about him. I don't know. I think the FBI, I don't know. In a lot of places in America, I think we've got this situation where the way things have been done has become kind of enshrined as this unbreakable thing, even when the current circumstances might make it better to break that. Like, for example, he says, well, we don't comment on ongoing investigations, and so there was an ongoing investigation of the Trump campaign, but the Clinton campaign was not ongoing, and so we commented on it. I'm like, okay, but the more salient issue is that the Republicans had the talking point, we're going to elect a Democrat who's under FBI investigation? No. That's beyond the pale. When the fact was that the Republican was under FBI investigation.
Well, so, to my knowledge, the Trump investigation began after that famous quote of "Russia, if you're listening."
Okay.
I've read articles to that effect. I'll take that back if that's not true, but I I think that was the triggering event where they were like,
Hey.
Hey, yeah, not creepy at all.
Yeah, you back? Okay.
I gotta say, I got hung up on a few times as I tried to call back.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh? No, I didn't do anything there. That's weird.
It was right at the 45-minute mark.
Okay. Huh. Okay. Well,
I said Russia if you're listening, and the phone went dead.
Yeah, they're like, hang up. Oh, we disconnected their call.
Oh, darn, you can't dial the number? Gee whiz.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. Funny thing happened to the enemy of Russia. On the phone. I got to work on my Russian accent.
Yeah, you do. We all got to.
Yeah. We might have to be doing that literally. Because we're all going to be speaking it in a few years.
Anyway, where were we?
Something about James Comey.
Yep.
About
Russia. When the investigation began. Yeah, I was just saying that the investigation began in July of 2016, really, in earnest. Paul Manafort, and Flynn, they were all doing what they were doing, but I think the dots started to connect around that point. And this was around the time that, the Republican platform was changed, around Ukraine or whatever.
To de-emphasize things like Eastern Europe and
right around that time. I think that's when things started clicking for people. Now, do you want to talk about the Steele dossier yet?
Yeah, what about it?
Well, I think it's notable. It's like the Sherlock Holmes quote, "The dog that didn't bark." Sometimes it's what's not said. There were many questions that he said he could not answer in open session.
At the time of your departure from the FBI, was the FBI able to confirm any criminal allegations contained in the Steele document?
Mr. Chairman, I don't think that's a question I can answer in an open setting because it goes into the details of the investigation.
Because you realize that we only got to hear the morning session, that was the open session, the unclassified section.
Like 1 p.m. they were going to go to closed session.
Yes, and that is where he will talk about that. And a third meeting with the Russians and Sessions came out during that also, that we know. But who knows what else was said.
And this is the continually infuriating thing, because the Republican Party is banking on Americans not having access to the classified information. I mean, that's part of they can say anything they want as long as the American people don't know the whole truth. And that's a situation where I think that the Americans' right to know supersedes this institutionalized, classify everything attitude. It's like, the American people can only make the best decision they can make based on the amount of information they have access to. And so, I don't know. I mean, what if somebody had come out, like what if the FBI, CIA, all these people had come out during the campaign and said, yeah, this guy's working with the Russians. A lot of people around him are working with the Russians. It's true. We know it. Here's how we know it. Here's the evidence. Go ahead and vote for who you want to vote for, or maybe not. Maybe we just arrest the guy. But just imagine if that had happened. If that had happened even during the primary, God bless them, the Republicans would have had a chance to choose a more reasonable candidate, perhaps. Whatever that means, more reasonable in the Republican context. But, I don't know. I mean, I think that I continue to think like this thing about how they're not talking about the thing with the Russian prostitutes and the urine and all that stuff. I mean, it happened. We don't know it happened, but we all know it happened. Like I said earlier, I mean, it's like they're refusing to comment on that and confirm it, but it's like, okay, but everything else in the dossier you're acknowledging is true. Why do you think that fact would not be true? Based on what we know about Donald Trump's person and his attitudes towards women and his attitudes towards other people and his attitudes towards Obama and Michelle Obama, why would we not believe that? What? Yeah, I don't know. So I'm eagerly waiting for the day that'll hit the internet.
Yeah, and not even that. Just like as we talked about in the episode where we talked about that, like the financial stuff too, not just the salacious sex stuff. I mean, there's more disturbing stuff on the way, because if no one else will lend him money, and he's beholden financially. We haven't seen his tax returns. We don't know.
No lawyers will represent him right now, except this one dude who doesn't know how to spell president, apparently.
Yeah.
And this is Mark Kasowitz, President Donald Trump's personal attorney. He'll make a short statement. We will not be taking questions. This is also Michael Bowe of the Kasowitz Law Firm.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Mark Kasowitz, President Trump's personal lawyer. Contrary to numerous false press accounts leading up to today's hearing, Mr. Comey has now finally confirmed publicly what he repeatedly told President Trump privately. That is, that the president was not under investigation as part of any probe into Russian interference. The president, Mr. Comey also admitted that there is no evidence that a single vote changed as a result of any Russian interference. Mr. Comey's testimony also makes clear that the president never sought to impede the investigation into attempted Russian interference in the 2016 election. And in fact, according to Mr. Comey, the president told Mr. Comey, quote, "It would be good to find out," close quote, in that investigation if there was, quote, some satellite associates of his who did something wrong, close quote. And he, President Trump, did not exclude anyone from that statement. Consistent with that statement, the president never, in form or substance, directed or suggested that Mr. Comey stop investigating anyone, including the president never suggested that Mr. Comey, quote, let Flynn go, close quote. As the president publicly stated the next day, he did say to Mr. Comey, quote, General Flynn is a good guy. He has been through a lot, close quote. And also, quote, asked how General Flynn is doing, close quote. Admiral Rogers testified today that the president never, quote, directed him to do anything illegal, immoral, unethical, or inappropriate, close quote, and never, quote, pressured him to do so, close quote. Director Coates said the same thing. The president likewise never pressured Mr. Comey. The president also never told Mr. Comey, quote, I need loyalty. I expect loyalty, close quote. He never said it in form, and he never said it in substance. Of course, the office of the president is entitled to expect loyalty from those who are serving the administration. And from before this president took office to this day, it is overwhelmingly clear that there have been and continue to be those in government who are actively attempting to undermine this administration with selective and illegal leaks of classified information and privileged communications. Mr. Comey has now admitted that he is one of these leakers. Today, Mr. Comey admitted that he unilaterally and surreptitiously made unauthorized disclosures to the press of privileged communications with the president. The leaks of this privileged information began no later than March 2017, when friends of Mr. Comey have stated that he disclosed to them the conversations that he had with the president during their January 27th, 2017 dinner and February 14th, 2017 White House meeting. Today, Mr. Comey admitted that he leaked to friends of his purported memos of those privileged communications, one of which he testified was classified. Mr. Comey also testified that immediately after he was terminated, he authorized his friends to leak the contents of those memos to the press in order to, in Mr. Comey's words, quote, prompt the appointment of a special counsel, close quote. Although Mr. Comey testified that he only leaked the memos in response to a tweet, the public record reveals that the New York Times was quoting from those memos the day before the referenced tweet, which belies Mr. Comey's excuse for this unauthorized disclosure of privileged information and appears to be entirely retaliatory. We will leave it to the appropriate authorities to determine whether these leaks should be investigated along with all the others that are being investigated. In sum, it is now established that the president was not being investigated for colluding with or attempting to obstruct any investigation. As the committee pointed out today, these important facts for the country to know are virtually the only facts that have not been leaked during the course of these events. As he said yesterday, the president feels completely vindicated and is eager to continue moving forward with his agenda, with the business of this country, and with this public cloud removed. Thank you.
Which, you know.
Or is blinking for help with his eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, it's. I mean, I think I think you'd be foolish not to treat the Steele dossier like it's a totally true document at this point. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But.
Well, I mean, sorry, we may have to cut this section a little bit in the final, but I'm trying to think where to go next. Talk about, but
there's just so much. It's like a swarm of bees.
What about which one is it? Is it Uday or Kusei? Trump said that Democrats are not people the other day.
I don't know. Was it the one that stole from kids with cancer or something?
What really matters anymore?
And welcome back to Hannity Show with the Destroy Trump media floating baseless Russia conspiracy theories every second of every day. And, of course, Democrats on Capitol Hill desperately searching for any evidence of collusion. Well, President Trump's sons, they are now coming to his defense, and they're speaking out with Eric Trump, now calling the Russia probe, quote, the greatest hoax of all time. Joining us now, the man himself, Executive Vice President of the Trump Organization, Eric Trump. How are you?
Hey, Sean, how are you?
Don't you wish you went to Washington so you could be dealing with this every second of every day?
You know what? I've never seen hatred like this. I mean, to me, they're not even people. It's so sad. I mean, morality's just gone. Morals have flown out the window. We deserve so much better than this as a country. Right. And, you know, it's so sad. You see the Democratic Party. They're imploding. They're imploding. They have no message. You see the head of the DNC, who is a total whack job. There's no leadership there. And so what do? They become obstructionists because they have no message of their own. They have no solid candidates of their own. They lost the election that they should have won because they spent 7 times the amount of money that my father spent. They have no message, so what do? They try and obstruct a great man. They try and obstruct his family. They come after us viciously.
Eric,
and it's truly horrible.
I actually would use the term with Kathy Griffin and a CNN anchor calling your father a piece of all right, and a conspiracy theory that every intelligence officer and top Democrats have all said there's no evidence of, and thousands of hours of coverage. But they've gone after your 11-year-old brother. They've gone after your soon-to-be-born child. They've gone after you, which is fine. Don, you guys probably have more fair game. But really, your sister, and really the First Lady, and really Kellyanne, and anybody that seems to like your father, they want to, I say they want to delegitimize his presidency. They want to stop his agenda, and if they can, they want to impeach him.
Yeah. Who are all in this, by the way, for the right reason. I mean, I look at that POS comment that you made, all right? Somebody on CNN, an anchor on CNN, called my father on the show a piece of...
That's right.
You might be an opinionated person, but you don't use profanities. You're not a child when it comes to calling people names. I mean, I got attacked today. I've raised $16.3 million for St. Jude. 16.3. I've dedicated
By the age of what?
I started when I was 21. I've raised $16.3 million for the greatest hospital in the world, that's St. Jude. And I get attacked for it. Barron gets attacked. People come out, they look at my wife. Well, I hope I hope the kid is aborted because God forbid there's another Trump in the world. I mean, the manners, the lack of morals in society is awful. And honestly, I blame most of these politicians. And I blame the media because it's out of control. I mean, the way they act are out of control. And honestly, it's because the Democratic Party is sinking. And I mean that sincerely. They don't have a message. They don't have leadership, so they obstruct. And it's really the worst of the worst, Sean.
I really feel your outrage because I'm here reporting it, reading it, seeing it every night. I think your criticism is dead on accurate. I said journalism is dead. It's dead and buried, and it's horrible. You know, look at what is your reaction to the Russia collusion theory with no evidence? Clapper, no evidence. Admiral Rogers, no evidence. Comey, Brennan, no evidence. Feinstein, Maxine Waters, Manchin, Warner, no evidence. Thousands of hours of coverage.
How about myself? How about Don? Right? How about the whole family who's by his side every single day? Every single day we were sitting there fighting. We had a very, very small team. I've said it from the beginning. We don't have projects in Russia. We don't have loans from Russia. I've said this 1,000 times. We had no involvement in Russia. But there's no other narrative. They don't have the voice of the American people. They don't have things that make sense for this country. They did a terrible job with jobs. They lost industry. They lost the economy. I mean, look at the stock market right now. Under my father, since Election Day, the stock market is up 15%. I mean, 15% since Election Day. Consumer confidence is at an all-time high. America is back. You see how he's treated when he goes over to the Middle East. Versus Obama, when he came off Air Force One, they wouldn't even bring a set of stairs up to the plane. That's how little respect they had for this nation. And honestly, it scares the other side, Sean. It scares the other party.
How bad? Do you worry this goes even further?
Yeah.
Because I actually think that it was such a shock and trauma to their system because nobody saw it coming, because they were so biased, and even the media colluding with the Clinton campaign. I don't know where this ends. This is now, we set a new low. Kathy Griffin, for example.
If they're willing
your 11-year-old brother saw this, right?
If they're willing to attack an 11-year-old boy, if they're willing to attack a 22-year-old girl going off to law school, meaning Tiffany, if they're able to attack my wife and an unborn child,
First Lady,
if they're able to attack the First Lady, if they're able to attack somebody who's raised $16.3 million for dying children,
his sister,
it is truly sick. And my father's a great man, and he's going to do a great job for this country. But honestly, we need to bring some principle back. We have to bring some manners back. We need to bring some respect back. It's sad. He's going to do a great job for this nation. I mean, he already has done a great job for this nation.
I think I'm the only person that ever reports the success or the things he's accomplished and the promises he's kept.
But they would rather see him. They would rather see him fail than have America succeed. And I've said that a million times, and I really believe it. That's the ugliness of Washington, D.C.
I can totally understand the passion that you're showing. Eric, great to see you. Thanks for being with us. Congratulations on the baby, too.
Thank you very much.
Was it Vampire Eric, or was it DJ?
Don Jr. Yeah. I don't know.
Who knows?
In a way, it doesn't matter. But, Republicans got their panties in such a twist about Hillary Clinton calling them a basket of deplorables. Now, the president's own son is saying Democrats aren't people. They're not even human beings. They're like literally dehumanizing us.
Yeah.
Fuck this guy. So, and fuck all this bullshit about we got to understand their feelings and respect their experience or whatever. It's not a two-way street. And I think I've seen an article. I read an article a few months ago that was like, everybody on news after the election was saying that, and even before the election, that we have to understand the angry, rural, white, lower-class, working, poor Trump voter or something. But have those people made any effort to understand people who are not like them? Hell no. They don't make any effort to understand gay people or trans people or black people or, anybody who's a liberal people who live in an urban environment, people who have traveled outside of America extensively. They make zero effort to understand that aspect. So, it's, again, it's like this kind of like this, there's a total double standard for liberals and conservatives in America. Like, we've got to make all the compromises for them, and they won. They won the presidency, and they're still the most angry people you'll ever meet. They're curious about things.
Can you imagine if they had lost?
Yeah, it would have been a damn civil war, part 2.0. Like, probably literally.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll still see what happens if their boy gets impeached, but I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, like, that's another thing. Yeah, they're stealing from kids cancer thing, which is not surprising. I mean, we've already seen that the charity in the Trump world means money laundering, basically, and a good photo op for the Trump family. That's all it means. They don't give a shit about kids with cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm glad to see, continue to see that people are starting to realize that, Ivanka Trump is not this, left-wing bastion who's going to, speak to Trump's better angels or whatever. She's a corrupt, rich princess who's, loves her dad, loves what her dad's done for her in her life, and is going to support her dad ultimately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she had that big spread, though, and what was it, People or Us Weekly or something, that was like, why I disagree with my father. And it's like, all right.
Yeah, well, she's got to maintain her own brand. She's got to branch out a little bit from the family brand just in case it gets too tarnished, but she she's not going to meaningfully stand up to her dad, and she's not going to come out against him in public. I mean, maybe she. Well, explain the article to me, because I haven't read that article. I'm not. Maybe she did already come out against him in public a little bit, but I have a feeling it was not in a substantive way.
No, I mean, okay, so I mean the thing with Jared, and we can talk about Jared if you want.
That little punk's going to jail too.
Yeah, he is. He's going to go with his criminal father, who ironically was put there by Chris Christie.
Yeah.
Anyway, so they're always portrayed as like the liberal saviors of America, and they're going to rein Trump in. But I haven't seen one iota of evidence that they have any influence over this guy. I mean, we were all supposed to pin our hopes on her for the, staying in the Paris climate thing. And guess what? It didn't matter. He threw the script away, and he just was like, hey, let's dig some more coal. Yeehaw.
Yeah. Those guys, they look like they're almost millennials, but they're not gonna save this thing. And and they're perfectly content to be as corrupt as they've always been and continue to financially benefit from this whole thing.
Well, and not to mention the fact that the Kushner family has been all around Asia shopping, visas through their connections and all that. Like that's all happening on the side.
Yeah, buy our $1 million apartment and we'll make you an American citizen. How about that?
Yeah, wink, wink, nod, nod. It's all, it's a pretty clear path to get where they want to go. You just go through us. And this is exactly what happens in third world countries. It's always the family you have to go through.
Yep. That's a huge thing, like as a former history major and stuff, and like somebody who appreciates history, it's just so frustrating to see people who they just can't conceptualize that the same kind of things can happen in America. And they do happen sometimes in America, and they are happening in America. And so they could be staring, Banana Republic level corruption or, fascistic rising situations. Those things could be staring them in the face, and they'll be like, no, it's different. We're a democracy. We love freedom. All these kind of things that we tell ourselves. But they don't, the Republicans love this idea of American exceptionalism, but that doesn't mean like America is exceptional and special in some ways, but it doesn't mean what they think it means. It means that the same things that have happened in other countries can and will and have and could happen in America. But they fundamentally don't believe that. They don't believe that a Hitler figure could ever come to America. They don't believe that, I don't know, who's the Banana Republic dictator we could name that would, be comparable to what's going on now. I don't have that ready.
Hugo Chavez.
Okay. Yeah, they all hate him, but like they just can't because they just disagree with this America.
Well, I mean the Castros. Let's just say the Castros.
Yeah, I think and the Castros are a little bit different because they actually led a revolution. Mm-hmm. They were fighting in the mountains of their country and stuff.
Right, but I mean they did in certain ways become very corrupt once they became in power.
Yeah. So I think the fact that these people who just say American exceptionalism, I believe in it, it's true. It's like they don't understand what they're talking about. And the fact that they don't understand it blinds them to the fact that something could be going on right in front of their faces, and they will misidentify it. They will miss the signs of what it actually is. And again, if you'd asked them during the campaign, do you think that the Trump kids will use their dad's position to benefit their businesses? They say, no. They said they're going to keep it all separate, and we believe them. And now they've done it, and you come back to them and say, well, they did it. You're wrong. Oh, no, it doesn't matter. They didn't really do that. Or, I don't even know what the excuse would be.
There really is no excuse, but they're doing it anyway. And the DOJ just today announced that they're defending in court a lawsuit brought by the former ethics lawyers for George W. Bush and Barack Obama collectively, Richard Painter and blanking on the other guy's name. But anyway, they are responding and saying they can, the executive branch can take payments from foreign entities what of it? There's no case law saying we can't. And it's basically like, it's only because we've never seen this level of corruption before that there's no case law to support what's happening. You see what I'm saying? Like no one's ever even tried to do the things that are happening now. They're like, well, if it's against the law, make a law about it. It's like, well, no one's ever thought to make a law about certain things. It's just always been you don't do that. And I guess what we're learning from all this is we have to say out loud, you can't do certain things and mean it and make, certain constraints that apparently aren't there at all right now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the level of corruption is, and I think another problem is just this, to some degree it's a Republican idea, although it may be somewhat bipartisan. I think that there's this idea that if the president does anything, then it, by definition, is no longer illegal, which is a laughable idea. It's a ridiculous idea. And I don't know, I just think, everybody, probably Democrats and Republicans, needs to get back to this, this idea that the government should be scared of the people shouldn't be scared of the government. I don't know, some sort of a clearly part of the founding idea. The founding idea, the founding fathers they're spinning in their graves to see what Trump does these days, and everybody knows that. I mean, they were not excited to have this kind of a corrupt individual working with foreign powers, seeking more and more authoritarian power for himself. This is the antithesis of everything that the founding fathers wanted. But people say, well, I love the founding fathers, and I love freedom, and I love America, and Trump's a great president. It's like, that all can't be true. You are misunderstanding something. Somewhere along there, you're lying. So you're lying to yourself. So, yeah. One other direction we could go here today is Middle East. Mm-hmm. Trump just did his Saudi Arabia, his Israel trip or whatever. Thoughts?
Well, he touched the orb.
Yeah, that was. It's.
All right, let's just can we just pause for a second and consider? Let's just consider. Close our eyes and open our minds real wide and consider what would happen. Let's say Hillary Clinton had won, and let's say she went to Saudi Arabia and she touched a glowing orb with a bunch of Saudis. Yeah. What do you think Alex Jones would have to say? And furthermore, all right, let's.
The globalists are giving her more power. She can kill more people now.
Yeah, exactly.
Fosters all over the place.
Yeah.
I'm worried about myself. Drink more male juice, special vitality sauce. Protect myself from Hillary. Hillary's a killer.
You'll be allergic to shirts.
Yeah, this is all part of the globalist reptile.
Yeah.
Gay frogs in the water supply. And she has that power. The Saudis gave her that power. The trilateral permission. The New World Order. Yes, they're putting the Project Epsilon into effect. That's what we saw at that meeting. I knew it was going to happen. I told you. We reported it all over the place. I've got the document. You can see it. Yeah, I can only imagine. Yeah, if anybody else had touched the thing is, it looks like a comic book action movie villain.
Yeah,
it's a comic book action movie villain thing to do. You go there with some shady Saudi and Egyptian presidents and kings, and you touch a glowing orb in a dark room. You look like you're channeling the energies or something. Getting ultimate power.
Yeah,
It's evil. It looks evil.
Yeah.
It's the definition of what evil looks like.
Yeah, and this coming from the guy that snuck into Bohemian Grove and found all sorts of sinister connotations with that.
Yeah.
And do you have no respect for the symbolism here? And he put out an article on InfoWars that was like, Trump touched a glowing orb, everyone lost their minds.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, this is theme. I don't know.
The other thing I was going to say, I just want to throw that out there. Jared Kushner maybe had that meeting with the Russian banker along with Kislyak. They didn't report on security forums. about his property on 666 Fifth Avenue or whatever. Can you imagine if Chelsea's husband owned a building on 666 Fifth Avenue and Hillary wouldn't touch an orb? I mean, let's just consider.
Yeah, they don't share our values. That's the least I can say. I was really looking forward to see what Alex Jones's take on the orb touching was, and I didn't really see what he had said. Did he? So he didn't go like this is globalism or anything. He didn't feel betrayed by Trump at all or anything like that. He just
no. Well, he's never going to, because he's a trusted advisor. It's just staggering to me that he could be so blind to his own. You know, I thought his radar of all peoples would be attuned to the orb.
Yeah. If he had responded in the way we would have expected him to respond to anybody touching an orb with the Saudis. And I mean, when he charged onto at the RNC convention or whatever, last year, when he charged onto the TYT, the Young Turks set, and he was yelling at them about things. One of the things he was yelling at them about was their support of Saudi Arabia, which they don't support Saudi Arabia. They've been very critical of Saudi Arabia on their show many times. But now Trump is over there playing patty cakes and doing, sword war dances on Yemen with the Saudis. And he's like, nothing wrong here. Nothing wrong. He's whatever he says. Again, I mean, if we're going to sit here and point out right-wing and conspiracy theorist hypocrisy, we're going to be here all day. It doesn't matter. So, what about Donald Trump has made a mess in the Middle East?
Well, I mean, he's made a mess in the space of hours, because Rex Tillerson, our esteemed Secretary of State, apparently only has the job because his wife told him to take it. He said that, one thing about Qatar, and then Trump said a completely opposite thing, all in the space of a few hours. And the ambassador to America from Qatar had to send a Twitter message openly just being like, we would like to talk and negotiate, because they can't communicate and they don't know what our policy is. It's complete incoherence. We're going back to Trump's trip a little bit. One of the most satisfying moments was seeing Steve Bannon in a sea of Muslims. That was pretty satisfying. And Trump apparently seated him next to. I mean, I gotta give Trump credit. He knows how to needle people when he has to. He sat him next to the founder of Wahhabism in Saudi Arabia during the ceremony, and that was a pretty uncomfortable experience from the looks of it for Steve Bannon.
Is the founder of Wahhabism still alive?
He's pretty old, but I think I could be wrong about that, but I think that was him. So
I would have to, like the book The Looming Tower, something like that. I forget who wrote it.
Lawrence. He wrote a book about Scientology I read.
Okay. Actually, hold on. I've got the book in my house here. It's under some other books. Let me grab it. Okay, yeah, Lawrence Wright, Looming Tower, Al-Qaeda and the Road to 9/11.
Yeah, the book he wrote about Scientology was Going Clear. You should read it. But I want to read The Looming Tower. Yeah.
It's a great book. It should be made into a movie someday, probably, because it's entirely nonfiction, but he details a guy who was tracking Osama bin Laden. He was aware of the unique threat that Osama bin Laden posed, but his office happened to be in the tower, and he was killed on 9/11. And so there was this thing where these guys are kind of playing cat and mouse, and this guy's kind of pursuing bin Laden around the world, and then bin Laden just strikes and kills him. And so there were all kinds of parallels between these two guys. And so it's a nonfiction book, but it has this great story in it. But in the beginning of the book, I remember it's a long book. It's like, it's like 500 pages or so. But the first several chapters are talking about the history of Wahhabism and the history of this kind of thing. And there was a guy, he had come to America, and he'd been somewhat westernized. He'd been in American society. He was a Saudi guy. But he went back to Saudi Arabia and he kind of rejected everything that he'd experienced in America. And he said that that was wrong and that, Islamic society should shield itself from that and define itself to some degree in opposition to that. And so and I'm pretty sure that guy's dead because he was in America in like the 30s or 40s or something, I want to say. It's been a decade since I've read the book. I've been meaning to reread it, but I'm so busy. But so I'll have to look into that more. I mean, I'm sure that the person Bannon was seated next to, and to be fair to Steve Bannon, which I feel no compunction is due, but I would be there are Muslims that I'd be very comfortable to sit next to. Saudi Arabians, not some of them. I would not be comfortable in Saudi Arabia.
Yes, but you're not like a prejudiced person in the way that Steve Bannon is. So any normal person would feel out of their element if they were around somebody they weren't like. That's just normal to feel as a human being. But like he actively works against other people that aren't like him. So I think that's why it's satisfying.
Yeah. I guess that's the power of the presidency. You can. It's kind of like in Mortal Kombat, the movie. Shang Tsung, he's like, Sub-Zero and Scorpion. They were mortal enemies in life, but under my power, they work together. It's kind of like that, right? I don't know. That's a strange metaphor, perhaps. But okay, so let's kind of go through what he did in the Middle East. Number one, I think the war on Yemen is kind of a disaster. I don't think it's a good thing. I think Yemen is one of the poorest countries in the region. I don't think that the American people have ever been correctly explained why we're at war with them. The Houthi rebels who took over the country or whatever supposedly have Iranian backing, but I think that's been exaggerated to some degree from what I've heard. I don't know. Broadly, it's part of this Saudi, Sunni and Shia thing where we're backing the Sunnis pretty much across the Middle East. And so anyways, from what I understand, Qatar or Qatar, however you pronounce it. I've heard people, I've always said Qatar, but some people say Qatar. They're part of the war. They're part of the coalition that's at war in Yemen. So I was surprised that... But apparently, from what I understand, from what I've gleaned from numerous articles I've read, trying to understand why Saudi Arabia and Bahrain and Egypt and all these other countries in the Middle East suddenly just cut off diplomatic relations and ended flights to the country and all this crap. And from what I understand, the leaders of Qatar are nominally they're supposed to be in between Saudi Arabia and Iran, kind of like a negotiator between them or something, but they never usually come out and say it, but actually they seem to be slightly more sympathetic to Iran. And I think somebody high up in their government, maybe their leader or whatever, had said something publicly that upset the Saudis or something because it seemed to be leaning more towards Iran or something, and that seems to be the issue. But Trump taking credit for this thing. He at first I think I commented on a BBC article somewhere and I was what is this and what's going on? We're not getting the full story. What the hell's going on? Then a couple of days ago, Trump put out a tweet I told the Saudis and everybody to crack down on countries that do this thing with terrorists or whatever, support terrorists. He's completely oblivious that 15 of the 19 hijackers on 9/11 were Saudi.
Well, he's also completely oblivious to the fact that we have troops stationed or a base, or we have some military, large base in Qatar. He doesn't even know that. He doesn't care. He's just saying things.
Yeah, and I feel and I could be wrong. Maybe I'm misreading the tea leaves or whatever, but it feels like that there's an uptick lately in the Sunni and Shia thing. The terrorism we just had in Iran, where somebody went into Khomeini, what's his name? Ayatollah Khomeini's, is that right?
Yeah.
Set up a suicide bomb, and then some other people went into the parliament. And from what I understand, in Iran, there is 10% Sunni minority, and it seems like all the terrorists there came from within the Sunni minority. ISIS claimed responsibility, But Donald Trump goes out and tweets and says, well, sympathy for the Iranian people or whatever, but, basically if you support terrorism, this kind of thing could happen to your country too. So there. I mean, he's sorry, not sorry, right? And I really wonder if that was an ISIS thing, or if that was a Saudi Arabian thing. And I wonder, frankly, to what degree are the Saudis against the ISIS? I mean, how, I'd be very curious to know more about that. What's the relationship? What's the attitude between ISIS and Saudi Arabia?
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I've heard one of the justifications for the crackdown on Qatar, or Qatar. I like Qatar a little better. I don't know. Qatar sounds like...
Qatar, that could be many things. It could be like a ship, or, I don't know, various things.
But,
maybe, no. Hello?
Hey.
Hey, yeah, we got cut off again. That's weird.
Yeah. I feel like I say more like triggering words probably for the programs that they set up to monitor this stuff than they can handle.
Yeah. Oh, he's talking about the Saudi ISIS connection. Cut him off.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Bob, again, I'm very curious to hear the listening numbers, where our listenership for this episode comes from. I'm a little curious, a little bit terrified. So I think that there's something going on more and more with, I don't know if it's ISIS or Saudi Arabia or Iran or Qatar or, whatever. But, when Trump says that all the Middle Eastern nations told him that Qatar supports terrorism, again, we get back to this issue that's always been a problem, which is what do you mean by terrorism, right? Hamas is a terrorist organization, but they're not going to show up in America's doorstep someday, and they're not going to get into Iraq necessarily. That's part of a local, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and stuff. If we're talking about that kind of terrorism, that's not I think when somebody says terrorism, we always assume the worst possible thing that's the most direct threat to us, like Al-Qaeda used to be. If you said terrorism, it meant Al-Qaeda, but it could be they supported Hamas in the Palestinian territories, and so, it's, I don't know, it's one of those slippery slope things where the meaning can change and stuff. So I have a feeling that they said that they're supporting terrorism, and Trump didn't really understand what that meant, or, how we work with different countries around the world who do support terrorism. And I don't know. The people that we were supporting, the Free Syria Army or whatever, a couple years ago, or the people that our people, our allies were supporting various groups in there. And you remember there was a video one time where this guy had cut out an ISIS soldier, maybe not even an ISIS soldier, but he cut out one of Bashar al-Assad's soldiers' heart, and he ate the heart raw on video. And that was one of our guys. And that was a big moment where it was like, holy shit, what are we supporting over there? And so, when you talk about terrorism, it's what do you mean? And, there are different degrees, and there are different, people have different interests that overlap at times. And so just to say that Qatar was supporting terrorists, well, the fact that we have our largest air base in the region in Qatar means that, this is not, it just could mean something different than what the worst possible interpretation of that might be. So I have a feeling Trump might have gotten bamboozled a little bit by the Middle Eastern nations there. I also loved it when he went to Israel and he said, "Hey, I just came in from the Middle East. It's good to be here."
Secretary of State has done an incredible job. We just got back from the Middle East. We just got back to Saudi Arabia, and we were treated incredibly well. And there's tremendous, really good feeling toward Israel.
Well, not only that, he was like, I never said Israel. I never disclosed where I got this wonderful, special, beautiful information from.
Your intelligence cooperation is terrific.
Thank you, President.
Thank you, guys.
Just so you understand, I never mentioned the word or the name Israel. Never mentioned it during that conversation. They were all saying I did. So you had another story wrong. Never mentioned the word Israel.
How's the visit so far, Mr. President?
Yeah, well, Benjamin Netanyahu, he looked uncomfortable. Good. Benjamin Netanyahu had his fingers on the scale, you know, in the election. He was very clear that he didn't like Obama and he really looked forward to working with Trump. Well, there he is, man. You get what you pay for. There you go. That's what you got. You got Trump, and he's going to blow up your spot. And he's going to out your sources in ISIS-held territory, and you know he's going to make you look like a fool. That's what you get. So I don't know. Yeah, obviously the whole Middle East thing, and then he also bragged about selling like what, $10 billion, $100 billion worth of weapons to Saudi Arabia, and then like a week later it comes out, oh no, most of those deals were already finalized under Obama, or they were just like statements of intent to buy weapons. They were not actually signed contracts yet. And so it's kind of like he's trying to take credit for this massive thing that he didn't. I mean, number one, it would be terrible if he did it. It's problematic that Obama might have done some of that. I don't think we should be selling any more weapons to Saudi Arabia, especially while they're at war with Yemen, which, you know, America seems to be involved in that too, which I don't think I approve of and I don't fully understand. Maybe there's something we're missing, maybe whatever, but it hasn't been adequately explained to us. I think that's the least you can say.
Well, I mean, Trump is the king of taking credit for things that either someone else did or something that is never going to happen. I don't know if you remember this, but it was a major campaign point during the throes of his final beatdown of Ted Cruz and John Kasich. He went to the Carrier air conditioning plant in Indiana. Yeah. And he was like, we're saving the jobs. And now it turns out, you know, after the fact, oh, wait, almost all of those jobs, the vast majority are still leaving. It doesn't matter. I mean, he wants the people to be like, big win, big league truth.
Yep. he got their votes when it mattered. He got the photo op when it mattered. And now, you know, forget about it. Who cares what happened 6 months later, 5 months later? So, yeah. Disappointing. Again, you know, maybe certain people voted against their interests, didn't really know what they were doing, trusted a man who should not have been trusted. Obvious snake oil, like you have a picture in the dictionary of a snake oil salesman, and it's going to be like Donald Trump. But people are still like, well, he said he's going to do good for my job. He's going to bring back the coal and manufacturing jobs from outside in the third world country. Yep, good luck.
Yeah. What do you think of Paul Ryan in his defense of Trump saying, hey, he's new at this? You know, I think that's.
I think people now realize why the president is so frustrated. When the FBI director tells him on 3 different occasions he's not under investigation, yet the speculation swirls around the political system that he is, that's frustrating. Of course the president's frustrated, and I think the American people now know why he was so frustrated, because this speculation was allowed to swirl when he was being directly told by the FBI director he wasn't under investigation. Look, as far as the conversations and all of that, I'm not going to speculate in any of this. I would just add that, of course, there needs to be a degree of independence between DOJ, FBI, and a White House, and a line of communications established. The president's new at this. He's new to government. And so he probably wasn't steeped in the long-running protocols that establish the relationships between DOJ, FBI, and White Houses. He's just new to this. And so I think it's what I got out of that testimony is we now know why he was so frustrated when the FBI director told him 3 times there's no investigation of him. Yet that speculation was allowed to continue. So obviously we know now why he was frustrated.
He's new at this is not a reason. That's not a defense. That's grounds for further impeachment. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing. He's been bumbling blindly for 5 months. Get him out of there. Paul Ryan's a spineless, sniveling little lickspittle who's, he's trying like hell to get some sort of a budget through, or to get some sort of a tax thing through, or to get some sort of health care repeal through. And once he gets any of those three things, I'm convinced that he'd be willing to let Trump go, probably. But I don't know. I mean, Paul Ryan, if he was really smart, what he would do is he would throw Trump under the bus, get him fired, and also invalidate Pence because he's part of the same administration, and install himself as president, right? He'd be a hell of a lot harder to get rid of than those two.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Pence is, as we've, I'm sure, discussed before, Pence is implicated in all of this because he was head of the transition. And
I think Comey mentioned that. I don't have it with me right now, but I think that Comey said something about Pence knew. Mm-hmm. Pence knew that there were questions about Flynn.
Mm-hmm.
Vice President Pence was the head of the transition. To your knowledge, was he aware of the concerns about Michael Flynn prior to or during General Flynn's tenure as National Security Advisor?
I don't. You're asking, including up to the time when Flynn was forced to resign? My understanding is that he was, and I'm trying to remember where I get that understanding from. I think from Acting Attorney General Yates.
And another thing that's just so goddamn maddening about this is Obama warned you guys about Flynn. He specifically warned you about Flynn, but you guys are like, oh, Obama said that? Fuck Obama. We're going to put him in anyways. What do you think about that? Oh, no, we're in trouble now? How could we have possibly known?
Who could have known?
Now, I have to tell you, it's an unbelievably complex subject. Nobody knew that health care could be so complicated.
Thanks, Obama. So, no, Obama warned you. He wasn't trying to cripple your incoming administration. He was trying to help you, you thankless bastard. And you did it anyways. And then when he got in trouble, you tried to say, well, of course we gave him clearance. I mean, Obama gave him clearance. No, Obama fired him and removed his clearance after a certain point, after he did certain things. You guys took that as a badge of honor on the man. Oh, sorry. I'm just. It's just exasperating to talk about the level of stupidity, corruption. Any number of pretty much any negative adjective you think they've exhibited it, right?
Yeah.
Blame Obama. Obama tried to get you the warning. So sorry. What's up?
No.
Get carried away with my own bullshit.
It's just amazing to see the Senate Republicans cling to their criticisms of Hillary Clinton all this time later. It's just such being a dead horse. It's like, it's not the issue anymore. Like, even if every bad thing you ever said was about Hillary and Bill Clinton is true, they're nowhere near power right now. They're off in the wood. They're literally off in the woods somewhere. Like, who cares? Like no one cares. Either deal with the present reality or leave office. Like, there's no other third way. Like, it's like these people. Like, it's so pathetic to have a boogeyman that can't even hurt you anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but she still might kill you, though.
Well, Anthony Weiner is living proof that that's not true.
They should have killed him years ago, probably.
They should have clipped. If he was on The Sopranos, it would have been like season 1, episode 8.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, that's he finally I don't know, Huma kept giving him second chances and he kept screwing up. I watched a documentary about the Weiner.
Yeah, I saw that too, Weiner.
It was pretty. I don't know what the word for it is. I mean, like, these are both, consummate professional political insiders, in their element day to day, and then they just keep allowing the cameramen to follow them around after the life falls apart in front of their eyes. It's amazing that this was even made.
Yeah, I mean, it speaks to their own vanity that they thought they could do this and pull it off, because, I don't blame, in the end, after watching that, I don't blame Huma or whatever for staying with him. I get it. She wants to make her marriage worse. She's got children with the guy. She doesn't want a broken home necessarily, but, like, to push him back into the public spotlight and to push him back into public life so soon, it just, it's inconceivable to me. It's just like, he's not ready, obviously. Like, if he was like Joe Schmo and this happened again, who cares? But he was probably going to be the mayor of New York City.
Yeah. Well, but I think that's one of the increasingly legitimate criticisms, perhaps, of the whole Clinton thing. That whole thing is this kind of what's the word? Like kind of this need to climb, this need to always be ambitious for no other reason than just being ambitious. It's like this kind of inborn thing that they have about them. I mean, themselves and Abedin and Weiner to some degree, and I don't know. I'm worried that the Democrats may not have learned a lesson this time with Hillary, and they may try to run her again, or they may try to, if some funny thing happens where Trump gets impeached, or, frankly, what we should be doing, we should be following the South Korean example and having another election, and we should be hyper vigilant for outside influence, and we should call it out when we find it. And, we should just have another vote, and everybody should get in. The Republicans can bring their 16 or 17 or 18, however many candidates they want to bring. Democrats can bring Joe Biden or, Bernie Sanders. If Bernie Sanders is not in there somewhere, I'm going to throw a shit fit and probably vote for the Republican. Because that's the unlearned lesson for most Democrats, is that Bernie Sanders would have wiped the floor with Donald Trump, and Hillary Clinton wouldn't, and that's just something we were right about and they were wrong about, and they, I don't know. Don't want to beat the dead horse, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, at this point, I'd take Jeb. Low energy Jeb.
But you look at a guy like Jeb Bush, he's taking 100 low energy. He's taking 120 extremely low. Oh, I shouldn't say it. He's debating right now. Maybe he's doing great. He's probably looking for me. He's saying, has anyone seen Trump? Why? Where's Trump? Where is he? Where is he?
Jeb was eminently reasonable on certain issues. He's still probably a terrible person who would have done damaging things, but I mean, it's depressing to the degree to which W's legacy has been.
He really has elevated to like JFK status just by comparison.
Yeah, I mean, he said stupid things, but you knew what he meant. With Donald Trump, it's just constant bullshit lies, and you know it. He knows it. And it's stupid, and it's false, and it's I don't know. It's just a whole nother level. I'm terrified to think who the Republicans will find or run in 4 years. Because it seems like they're on a downward trend. So. But yeah, so anyways, I don't know. Yeah, the Middle East, the Comey thing. Oh, today I saw the news. Speaking of testifying under oath at the Senate. Well, the Senate. Which group were they testifying in front of?
Are you talking about Coates and Rogers and them?
Well, whoever the senators were last night. Is this the? God, I would have. I'm kind of blanking on it. This is why they'll never have us on NBC, because we don't know everybody's specific job title and which committee they're on. But not the Foreign Intelligence Committee. What the hell ever I don't know, whatever committee this was. They asked Trump at a press conference, would you be willing to testify under oath to these same people? He says, yes, Jim Comey's a liar, and I 100% would be willing to testify. I'm like, yes, do it. Lock him in now. Get him signed up.
Who would like to ask? Should I take one of the killer networks that treat me so badly as fake news? Should I do that?
Standing room, Mr. President.
Go ahead, John.
Thank you.
Be fair, John.
Oh, absolutely.
Remember how nice you used to be before I ran? Such a nice man.
Always fair. Mr. President, I want to get back to James Comey's testimony. You suggested he didn't tell the truth in everything he said. He did say under oath that you told him to let the Flynn, you said you hoped the Flynn investigation you could let.
I didn't say that.
So he lied about that.
Well, I didn't say that. I mean, I will tell you, I didn't say that.
And did he ask you to pledge his
And there'd be
loyalty?
nothing wrong if I did say it, according to everybody that I've read today, but I did not say that.
And did he ask for a pledge of loyalty from you? That's another thing he said.
No, he did not.
So he said those things under oath. Would you be willing to speak under oath to give your version of those events?
100%. I didn't say under oath. I hardly know the man. I'm not going to say, I want you to pledge allegiance. Who would do that? Who would ask a man to pledge allegiance under oath? I mean, think of it. I hardly know the man. It doesn't make sense. No, I didn't say that, and I didn't say the other.
So if Robert Mueller wanted to speak with you about that,
I would be glad to tell him exactly what I just told you, John.
And you seem to be hinting that there are recordings of those conversations.
I'm not hinting anything. I'll tell you about it over a very short period of time. Okay? Okay. Do you have a question here?
When will you tell us about the recordings?
Over a fairly short period of time.
Now? Are there tapes, sir?
Oh, you're going to be very disappointed when you hear the answer. Don't worry.
Put him on the stand because this guy can't go 2 sentences without telling 3 lies. He will be impeached for perjury under oath or whatever in 2 seconds. Like they won't go 5 minutes into the thing before they're like, somebody's trapped him in a lie. And that was incredibly stupid of him to agree, of course, to testify under oath. I can't imagine that anybody else in the White House wants him to do that. I can't imagine that his foolish lawyer who agrees to continue to represent him will do that. I mean, but he's like, yeah, 100% I will. Well, we'll see about that. We'll see, 'cause I'm sure. And I heard also that they've subpoenaed they said if there are tapes, if tapes exist, by the 23rd, I believe, of this month, they need to be presented to that committee. And they said, if you have tapes of your conversations with Jim Comey, we want them. And, the court is ordering you to, or, the committee is ordering you to present them. So, moment of truth, we'll find out if he's really going to the Nixonian level with the taping of conversations, or if he was just trying to bluff and intimidate Comey, or James Comey not to testify.
A, I wonder if they exist. B, I wonder if they did ever exist, if they still exist. Like if maybe they were gotten rid of somehow. Or, it is kind of amazing if you look at a retrospect of Watergate, how Nixon hung on to those tapes for no reason, really. Like he thought maybe they would vindicate him or something. But if he had just burned them before they requested them, there's really nothing you can do. They're his private property. So I think the gap between when they were created and now, it offers ample time to, if they destroyed them now, it would be a crime.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I wish people would I think with poor people or ordinary people, when there's a criminal investigation, they will snatch your computer up and take it and just say, no, there's evidence on here, we're going to take it or whatever. You don't get a chance to hold on to this for any amount of time. But the Clinton thing, they asked her to turn over the emails, 33,000 emails or whatever, however many she deleted. And it's like, why didn't you just seize them? Why did you ask her to turn them over voluntarily? Why did you delay? With these powerful people, rich and powerful and influential people, there has to be one system of justice. It's like if you think that they have incriminating evidence, you got to snatch it up and lock it in. You can't give them several weeks or months to think about what they want to do with it before that you finally request it. And I don't know. A lot of frustration. But yeah, I think Trump is digging himself into a variety of holes, and I hope that we get a president in there who's going to be able to turn a lot of these things around. I hope that the rest of the world understands that America's lost our way some time here, but we're going to get it back, and hopefully we can start over somewhere close to where we left off before this maniac came in and set the whole place on fire. So, I don't know. Did you? Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
I don't know. I think we've covered a lot. I don't know what else. Did you have any other?
Well, we could talk about the England and French elections.
Okay. Yeah. It seems like. It seems like the guy in France is a good guy. Seems like that's going to work out well for them.
Apparently, I heard that the reason that Trump eventually pulled out of the Paris thing was that he did that handshake thing with Macron, and he totally rolled his knuckles.
Yeah, he's like, that's my move. This guy's stealing my move.
He's like, I'll show you. I'll ruin the planet.
Yeah. What are you going to do if I pull out of your? It's named
Paris?
Paris, so it must be yours.
Is that in France?
Yeah. I don't call them French fries anymore. I call them freedom fries. My choice. Just my preference. Just the way I like to do things. Okay.
And now he'll have the meatloaf. Have you heard that he orders the meatloaf for people to show dominance?
Oh yeah, he did that to Chris Christie, right?
He also did that to Comey, apparently.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Christie, doesn't matter to Chris Christie. That's probably anything you put in front of him, I'm sure. But no fat shaming. I'm not trying to fat shame Chris Christie. But I mean, I'm sure James Comey is a man of discriminating tastes. He probably wanted something a little bit more substantive, right, for his dinner.
Trump's over there with 2 scoops of ice cream and his steak with the ketchup on it. Well done.
Yeah, I drink your milkshake. How about that?
We don't know what's in that milkshake.
Yeah. Yeah, he's a bad man.
But I don't know. There's probably not too much else to say. We still have to do our Bill O'Reilly episode eventually, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is the time for it.
Yeah, I sincerely apologize that we were not able to finish that book in time to really, strike while the iron was hot when Bill O'Reilly was losing his job, basically, because that would have been a great time, I think, to get that episode out. That would have been very timely, but we still have that on the back burner here. It's definitely, I've been working, my schedule's been crazy these days with finishing late at 9:30 and starting early at 6:30, so I have to wake up at 5:30, and so kind of anytime during the week, if it's a matter of doing a phone call during the week, it's almost impossible these months. But I may be headed back to America in a couple months. I'm not sure exactly when. It might be the 8th month or it might be the 9th month. I need to sit down with my boss and set that up. But
also known as August and September for the lay people out there.
Yeah, yes. I don't count real good. So also because I'm in Korea, in Korea they say Pawwal and Guwal, just 8th month and 9th month. They just have numbers.
It's so literal.
Yeah, a lot of things are very literal in Korean language, I think. Some things are very figurative. We'll have to discuss that on the show sometime. They got some really direct words, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good direct word that Koreans have. It's extremely blunt. I don't know, let's see. God, I could normally think of this I don't know, I ask somebody, I'll say an English word and I'll ask my students, okay, what is this word in Korean? And they'll tell me and I'll realize what the word is, and it's exactly just a literal, oh God, I can't, damn it. Okay, I'll try to write some of these things down and we'll talk about them. But some things are also very figurative and very artistically created, I don't know. Yeah, the Koreans, okay, for example, I'm going to tell you, you may want to take this out of the final episode or may not. I don't know. It's a little dirty, okay? So, spoiler warning, it's going to be dirty. Stop this episode now if you don't want to hear this.
I'm gonna put that at the beginning of the episode, just in general.
Okay. I get carried away with my anger. Okay, but Koreans have a word for the phenomenon. They have a word for the phenomenon of during the hot summer months when your balls are sweaty. Okay, and they call it fire egg.
Very descriptive.
Yeah, it paints a picture. So, so again, that would be like an example of a little bit of a kind of a figurative, an artistic representation of something that, in literal terms, you might describe differently. But yeah, so like the fire egg is one of their words. Now I'm trying to think of like something else that they have, which is like. Oh God, I don't know.
Well, I'll give you an example that I don't know the actual thing of, but in French, when you think of a good comeback way after the fact, and it's no longer useful. The French in their language call that the curse of the stairway.
Why is that?
Because you're on the stairway out of someone's home when you think of the good response.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there is something like that in Korean, I have no idea what it would be, though, unfortunately. But, I'm probably suffering from that same probably, after I hang up, I'll be like, oh, right, that thing.
Oh, you're right, the P tape.
Yeah. God. Okay, what is... Oh, man. Okay, so let me think about it. And this is the thing where it's kind of like situational words, right? Like if I were in the classroom and if you asked me to name some Korean word that had a very literal translation to English, I could probably tell you. But I'm not in the classroom right now. I'm shifted out of that Korean language mode a little bit. But I don't know. Let's see. When you party on Friday night, when you go drinking on Friday night, they call that bul kum. Kumyoil means Friday, and bul means fire. So they call it Fire Friday. It's kind of like when you're done with the week and you go out partying on a Friday night, they call that Fire Friday. So that might be like a more family-friendly example you could include.
Okay. All right. I'll include that on the radio edit version.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be good. God, I hope my students don't listen to this podcast. But hey, it's your word. It's as Spicy said on SNL. It's your word. I'm just using your word. Right?
You said it.
Yeah, you said it. So yeah. Anyways, let's see. I guess we better wrap up here. I gotta do a few things today, but I'm thinking about music. Okay, I'm thinking about music, and for example, one example I recently discovered that Sia, is that her name? Mm-hmm. The singer Sia, she used to be a member of the group 07.
No kidding.
Did you know this?
No.
Yeah. Like the waiting line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know.
Back around 2004, 2005, they had some really soulful kind of techno. I don't know what you'd even call it, like what the genre is, but really just some nice mellow songs. The Waiting Line was one, and the other one was I don't know. They had a couple of great songs I liked a lot, and I had no idea that she was part of that. But she's doing something a little bit different now. That's I think is also very good. I mean, that Chandelier is an epic song, pretty much. Other music that I've recently kind of have you heard this song? And I forget DJ Aki or something. I forget his name. It's called Second First Date. Have you heard that song? I don't know how much airplay it got in America, but it's a pretty good, mellow, kind of like something you might hear in a cafe. I heard that song back around 2009 or 2010, and I liked it at the time, but then I kind of forgot about it for several years, and then I heard it the other day, and so I started listening to that again. I don't know. What's her name? R&B singer. I've been listening to, Toni Braxton. I've been listening to some Toni Braxton lately, I think. One song I also forgot about from university, but I rediscovered a few weeks ago was Hit the Freeway. Do you remember that at all?
Who was it by?
Was it Toni Braxton? Damn it. Oh man, if I'm screwing this up. I want to say it was Toni Braxton, but I could be wrong about that now that I think about it. But yeah, Hit the Freeway, He Wasn't Man Enough for Me. What was that other song she did about Oh God! Hang on. You can edit this. I'm gonna look it up in my iPad because I've got it in my iPad playlists. Tony Braxton. I want to say Tony Braxton. Let's see. Music, history, songs. Everything's so complicated now. Yeah, Tony Braxton. Yeah, He Wasn't Man Enough is a good one. Monifa, Touch It. Tony Braxton, You're Making Me High. Let's see. Norah Jones and Wax Poetic, Angels. That was a nice song. Let's see. Sorry, there's an interesting song. My mom used to listen to, what's her name? Joni Mitchell. Are you familiar with Joni Mitchell? She had a song in one of her albums called The Windfall, which was a great song. With The Windfall, parentheses, Everything for Nothing. That's kind of a good song. It's like apparently she got sued by one of her like domestic helpers or something, and so she wrote a song about it or something, about how this woman was very greedy or something. But it's a really interesting song. It's a pretty cool song. Also, like The Weeknd. I mean, this is a guy, like, I don't know. He seems like the kind of singer I wouldn't really like, but actually I pretty well like what he's doing, basically. And he did, like, I think he did his own version of one of the Sade songs. I forget which one. He's doing some interesting stuff.
Have you heard Childish Gambino's new stuff?
I haven't. I've heard a little bit of his older stuff. I heard he like might be retiring that thing or whatever.
Well, he's definitely changed his style. He's not really rapping quite as much as doing more of a Prince thing.
Okay.
You should look up this one song called Redbone.
Okay, I've heard about that. Yeah, no, Redbone, I mean, that was the name of a band. They did a song like, what was it? Come Get Your Love or something? Or
all right, that sounds right.
Yeah, it was a catchy song. Yeah. Let's see. I've been listening to some Bobby Brown, too. Every Little Step. I went through a 90s night the other day where I was playing some video game online. I was, shooting everybody. It was a first-person shooter, but I was just going through like a whole. I did like Snap, I've Got the Power, Bobby Brown, Every Little Step, Technotronic, Get Up Before the Night Is Over, D Light, Groove Is in the Heart.
Wow.
I was going through a whole bunch of like that really early 90s R&B stuff. I was having a real good time.
Yeah, I listened to some Kid Rock unironically recently.
I know. I actually did that a few months ago, too, like about the time he went to the White House. I was so pissed at the guy. And I went back and listened to his song. I was like, what the hell is wrong with you, dude? I mean, your songs were of their time, shall we say. But there was something there. I mean, like musically, artistically, there was something. I mean, it was trashy, but I mean, that was kind of the, a lot of things were trashy in Mitchell, Indiana around 1999.
That's what I try to explain to people.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, if you were... Hello?
Oh, hey.
Hey. Yeah, sorry, I don't know what the hell's going on tonight. Maybe, I don't know. We were talking about the Bobby Brown connection. It's getting too close.
Poison!
Yeah. That was Belle Biv DeVoe, wasn't it?
Wait. It was all New Jack Swing.
Yeah, God bless it. Whatever happened to that stuff? I think New Jack Swing needs to have a comeback. Yeah, I got some Boys to Men in there. The water runs dry. That was a very mature, almost like an adult contemporary-esque song. Let's see. Yeah, this guy's name is DJ Aki, and the song is Second First Date, featuring Risa K. So put that in your pipe and smoke it. It's a catchy tune, very catchy tune. There's some Chinese singer named Leah Duo. I'm not sure I'm spelling that right. She wrote a song. It's like "It's Just What We Do" or something. It was kind of a catchy song. I think I heard it in a commercial somewhere. Have you been watching the return of Twin Peaks?
Mm-mm. I never saw the original Twin Peaks, except I think you tried to show me one episode.
Oh my God, dude, you've got to watch it. It's crazy. And like there was a song at the end of the second episode that was amazing on there. A great song. I don't know what it was called now. Have you heard about Big Bang? You know Big Bang K-pop, one of the biggest K-pop groups. One of their guys named Top, T-O-P, I forget, I don't know how you say it. He got in trouble for smoking marijuana, and then he's in the military service right now, and he's serving as like a police officer in Gangnam branch of Gangnam Style fame. And so after that happened, like the stock price of his company that he's a part of like tumbled like 7% or something like that, 4% maybe. And then like they found him unconscious in his house or something. He'd taken a bunch of pills or something, and so they took him to the hospital, and like he didn't wake up. I'm not even sure if he's awake yet, but it seems like he might have attempted suicide or something. So Big Bang's in all kinds of trouble. Let's see. Sistar, Sistar, they had a song that was pretty good called Na Honja, which means like I'm alone or alone. That's a kind of a catchy little song. I listened to some Bonnie Raitt. I mean, do you know Bonnie Raitt at all?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, that was something that like my parents used to listen to, like probably in the late 80s, early 90s. We were driving around in the car. Bonnie Raitt. Who's the guy I'm thinking of? We went to his concert in high school. I always
John Hyatt.
Yeah, John Hyatt. Sometimes I've been listening to some of his stuff. He's a funny guy, you know. Probably as a parent now, Bob, as a parent twice over, maybe you can appreciate, for example, his song "Like Your Dad Did." You ever hear that song?
Yeah.
Like, just like your dad did.
It's a little on the nose, but yes.
That guy, I mean, that guy, he makes nothing but hits for my money. So, I think we deconstructed the style of a normal John Hyatt song, right? And there's like, you know, you have the bridge and you have the bars or whatever, you have the chorus, and then you have a part where he just screams at some point. And it's kind of like every song, right? It comes to a point about 2/3 of the way through the song where he just yells. Yeah, pretty great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I've been listening to a variety of things, you know, early 2000s, early 90s, late 80s. I've been kind of going back through a lot of that. A little bit of K-pop in there. One of the newer K-pop groups is Mamamoo. I think they have one song by the group Mamamoo, which is called Mamamoo. It's kind of an interesting, kind of a hip-hoppy style song. I think there's another guy named Zion something or something over here. He's a pretty good kind of hip-hop guy, I think. Honestly, I haven't been keeping up with it as much as I should have, but yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Lots of music.
Yeah, I was listening to that John Hyatt song, "The Tiki Bar is Open," the other day.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't remember that song. I remember the title. I don't remember how it goes, but yeah. You know, there's one song I haven't been able to find anywhere. I can't find it on YouTube. I can't discover where it's at anymore. And if you can find it, do some research for it. It's a great song. It's called "The Wreck of the Barbie Ferrari."
Oh, I know that one.
Yeah, that's a pretty good song. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, the one I like, other one I was listening to was Tennessee Plates.
Yep. He's doing time in the prison making Tennessee Plates.
It all comes back around.
Yeah. Well, here I'm picking up this thing. Let me see. I'm able to look at some songs that I've Shazammed here. that I liked. Oh, what was there's a unabashed pop song that I actually kind of like, called, I think it's called "Work from Home." Do you know that song? It's a bunch of it's kind of like that P. Diddy sponsored the women's group. I forget what they were called even.
3LW.
No. Nikki something or other, Schadenfreude, or I forget. It was a really,
that would be a great German girl group. Schadenfreude.
Yeah. No, her name was like a Scherzinger or something like that. I forget the hell what her name was.
Schlesinger?
Something like that, yeah. Okay, so what is it? Work from home. So, like when it comes to music philosophy, like, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, back when we were in high school, I think I read somewhere that Marilyn Manson had gone up to Justin Timberlake and said, "I really like your new song. It's like so lovey-dovey, but it's got this creepy undertone that I really like." And I thought that was hilarious. And I think that's kind of a way that I appreciate some pop music, is that even though it seems like benign and everything, it actually has like these really dark undertones. Okay, this is Fifth Harmony, "Work from Home," featuring Ty Dolla $ign. Okay, and when you listen to it, it's a ridiculously pop song. It's just bizarre. It's just unabashed pop. But the lyrics, I don't know. The lyrics almost have some sort of a kind of a subversive undertone, I think. Let me see what we got here. I'm trying to find the lyrics themselves. Yeah. Okay, so it's in a way it's kind of a callback to a traditional marriage. I think she starts out, "I ain't worried about nothing. I ain't wearing nada. I'm sitting pretty impatient, but I know you gotta put in the."
Oh, yes, I know that song.
Yeah, "I'm sending pick after pick. I'm gonna get you fired." So she's at home. She's just fulfilling the traditional home homemaker role, but her boyfriend or her husband's out working all the time, and she's missing him, I guess. I don't know. It's got a very kind of like 1950s, like, "I don't need an explanation, baby, you're the boss at home." I mean, this is like traditional family values 101, I guess. But, and then there's the chorus is, "You don't got to go to work, but you got to put in work. We can work from home. Let my body do the work. It's like, I mean, it's kind of this wish fulfillment that you didn't have to work, but you do in the modern economy and stuff. So, yeah. Anyways, it's an interesting song. I think that when you think about it in the post 2008 financial collapse, has a kind of an interesting undertone from a I don't know, a socialist perspective, perhaps. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but anyways, it's not a great song. It's catchy, it's poppy, but it's not. Yeah, I will be the first to admit it's a guilty pleasure. It's not a good song. It doesn't necessarily have a great message, but
yeah, I find myself listening to the radio a lot in the car with when I have the family there, because when I'm by myself I listen to whatever podcasts, but I don't think a 2-year-old really cares about Terry Gross. So.
Well, never. Yeah. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, like, we would go around, like, our parents would listen to the NPR all the time, and I think that I don't know at what age that started exactly, but I think it probably made me a person who was interested in, whatever, I guess. I was interested in the news, what's going on in the world. Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So, let me see, what else do I got here music-wise? Let's see. Carly Rae Jepsen has a new song called "Body Language." I think I listened to it one time somewhere and I Shazammed it. I just thought it was catchy, and I didn't realize it was her. And Carly Rae Jepsen's song, what was the one she had that got popular years ago?
I don't know.
Something about phone number, call me maybe. Call me maybe.
That sounds familiar.
Total guilty pleasure. And you can't find it anymore. on YouTube or whatever, but somebody remixed it with "Head Like a Hole" by 9 Inch Nails, and it worked perfectly. It was, I think it was called "Call Me a Hole." And it was a great mashup. So I know you had a guy on the podcast one time who did a mashup of various songs, so that might be an interesting one.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can search it now. Sorry, I know this may require extensive editing. Oh, okay. It seems to exist. Hold on, let me see if I can. Hold on, let me click on it and see if it plays. It's probably not going to play. Oh well, the commercial sure as hell is going to play. It's a beer commercial, it's Korean. Anyways, I'm interested in the intersectionality of unabashed pop music with dark metal and industrial music, I guess.
There's definitely a connection. I don't think they're that different, really.
Yeah. I think there's something there, some sort of a through line. But yeah, I don't know. I listen to things that I remember from a long time ago, or I listen to whatever's on the radio, but I don't really know what it is right now. I hate to admit it. Like, I mean, do you know that British guy? He's like a songwriter, Ed Sheeran or something like that.
I've heard of him. I don't think I know any of his songs.
Yeah, I don't really know his music either, but apparently he was like a big thing or something in America that I kind of missed. But he wrote a song which I was impressed by the lyricism of it, but I was disgusted by the singer of it, which is Justin Bieber. And the song was something like, "My mama don't like you, my mom likes everybody," or something like that, or "Love Yourself." I think that's what it was called, which is basically, cutesy Christian Justin Bieber way of saying "fuck yourself." But it was a catchy, like the lyrics were interesting. Like the chorus is like, my mama don't like you and my mom likes everybody, so I think there's something wrong with you," or something like that. Lyrically it was interesting, the chorus at least. But Justin Bieber is a disaster as a human being. So. What about what's her name? Ariana Grande.
Yeah, she's had some good ones. I like that one song she had, "Every Day."
Okay, I don't know that one. Maybe.
It was with Future.
Okay, I'll check it out. But she had. God, I hope you had half of this conversation out now because this shit's getting embarrassing. But like when I was back in America in 2014, like that was the banger of the summer. Was that one she had, "Break Free" or whatever the hell it was?
Oh yeah.
Like it was ubiquitous on the radio, and it kind of got to you after a while. It was kind of like, it was catchy, it was funny, it was not funny, but it was just like ridiculous. It was danceable or whatever if you're into that kind of thing. I don't know. So yeah, she had the terrorism at her concert there a few weeks ago, and I think like Piers Morgan or something. He called her out and said she was partly responsible, and then like everybody gave him shit, and a few days later she came back and did a concert and she hugged the victims who survived it and stuff, and like he's like, "I'm so sorry, I utterly misjudged this young lady. She's great." So
yeah,
I don't know.
Thanks, Piers Morgan.
Yeah, that guy. I never totally understood the hatred for the guy, but that was kind of a dick move, I thought. So.
Yeah, well, he's a huge Trump supporter, so.
Oh, is he? Oh, God. I thought, like, he kind of got thrown out of America after Alex Jones came on his program and showed his ass on TV, basically. I never understood that. I was like, wait, why are we on that other guy's side? I mean, like, this guy wanted to have a reasonable debate about guns in America, and sure, he's an outsider or whatever, but, he has an opinion, and he has a syndicated TV show or whatever the hell. So, like, I don't know. I didn't see what the big thing was, but he was out on his ass very quickly after that.
Well, 1776 will commence again, in case you haven't heard. So.
Yeah, when he tried to do the British accent too, he's like, yeah, it was ridiculous.
It's an issue I care passionately about, so here is my position, loud and clear. I'm in favour of a nationwide ban on military-style semi-automatic assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. I want to close the gun show loopholes and require private dealers to run background checks on buyers at gun shows. And I'd like to see the president increase federal funding for mental health treatment for all Americans who need it. I think these are entirely reasonable reactions to the outrages that have occurred in America over the last few months. But tonight, I'll go head-to-head with a man who actually wants to deport me for having these very views. And over 104,000 Americans apparently agree with him. That's coming up.
Pierce, I can't say how much I agree with your opinion and what you've stated previously. I appreciate you having your First Amendment right, and I am glad you're speaking out, because that's exactly what we need.
Anyone who's watched this show over the past few weeks knows I've taken a pretty strong stand on guns in America. It's not escaped the notice of supporters of gun rights, and it's led to a petition on the White House official website, no less. It's entitled, and I quote, "Deport British citizen Piers Morgan for attacking Second Amendment." Take a look. More than 104,000 people have signed it so far. And joining me now is one of the people behind the petition, Alex Jones. He's host of the Alex Jones Show. Welcome to you.
Piers, thanks for having me.
Why do you want to deport me?
Well, we did it as a way to bring attention to the fact that we have all of these foreigners and the Russian government, the official Chinese government. Mao said political power goes out of the barrel of a gun. He killed about 80 million people because he's the only guy that had the guns. So we did it to point out that this is globalism, and the mega banks that control the planet and brag that they've taken over, in Bloomberg, AP, Reuters, you name it, brag that they're going to get our guns as well. They've taken everybody's guns but the Swiss and the American people. And when they get our guns, they can have their world tyranny, while the government buys 1.6 billion bullets, armored vehicles, tanks, helicopters, Predator drones, armed, now in U.S. skies, being used to arrest people in North Dakota. The Second Amendment isn't there for duck hunting. It's there to protect us from tyrannical government and street thugs. Take the women in India. Your piece earlier on CNN I was watching during Anderson Cooper's show didn't tell you that the women of India have signed giant petitions to get firearms because the police can't and won't protect them. The answer is, hey, wait a minute, I have FBI crime statistics that come out a year late, 2011. 20+% crime drop in the last 9 years. Real violent crime, because more guns means less crime. Britain took the guns 15, 16 years ago, tripling of your overall violent crime. True, we have a higher gun violence level, but overall mugging, stabbings, deaths, those men raped that woman in India to death with an iron rod 4 feet long. You can't ban the iron rods. The guns, the iron rods, Pierce, didn't do it. The tyrants did it. Hitler took the guns. Stalin took the guns. Mao took the guns. Fidel Castro took the guns. Hugo Chavez took the guns. And I'm here to tell you, 1776 will commence again if you try to take our firearms. Doesn't matter how many lemmings you get out there on the street begging for them to have their guns taken. We will not relinquish them. Do you understand? That's why you're going to fail, and the establishment knows no matter how much propaganda, the Republic will rise again when you attempt to take our guns. My family in the Texas Revolution against Santa Anna, my family was at the core on both sides starting that, because Santa Anna came to take the guns at Gonzales, Texas. Pierce, don't try what your ancestors did before. Why don't you come to America? I'll take you out shooting. You can become an American and join the Republic.
You finished?
Yes, I am finished. You will not take my right. You go through background checks to get guns. How about Prozac? You know the number one, that's the big sponsor, isn't it? Or that whole class of drugs.
Let me ask you a question.
Oh, got to cut that off, don't you? Don't want to talk about the U.S. number one cause of death is suicide now, because they give people suicide mass murder pills.
Calm down.
Your answer is give more money to the psychiatrists and psychologists to put more crazy people on drugs that make them kill people, Pierce.
Let's try and have a debate here.
Yeah.
Answer me this question.
I'm sick of the same old script here, bud.
It's fine, bud. How many gun murders were there in America last year? Do you know?
There were about 11,458, and about 74% of those were gang-related, gangbangers shooting each other. You get 3,500 to 4,000.
That wasn't the
How
question.
many people died from infections in hospitals? 197,000.
Let me just ask you a second.
That's right.
How many gun murders were there in Britain?
How many great white sharks?
No, how many
kill people every year, but they're scared to swim?
Right. How many gun murders were there in Britain?
A very low amount. I already went over those statistics.
Many, do you know?
It was only a few hundred.
No. How many gun murders?
I actually did pull up the statistics. Here, let me pull them out right here. I figured you'd do that.
Gun murders
Oh,
in
wait.
Britain last year.
UK violent crime, capital of Europe. London Telegraph. Here, let me give you more.
It's quite a simple question.
Well, that's the oldest.
You're a very loud man.
That's the oldest Perry Mason tactic to ask me some little factoid.
It's not a little factoid.
I already said earlier,
We're talking about
England has a lot lower gun crime rate because you took all the guns.
Let me try exactly my
point.
point.
But you've got hordes of people burning down cities and beating old women's brains out every day.
What a ridiculous
They arrest people in England if they defend themselves. That's on record. My God, you have got a total police state. Everybody's fleeing that country because you've had to flee here, bud. Why don't you tell folks? Yeah, you fled here. Why don't you go back and face the charges for the hacking scandal?
Answer this question. How many
Why'd you get fired from the Daily Mirror for putting out fake stories? You're a hatchet man of the New World Order. Okay. You're a hatchet man. And I want to say this right here. You think you're a tough guy? Have me back with a boxing ring in here, and I'll wear red, white, and blue, and you can wear your Jolly Roger.
Okay.
You know what?
Let's try again. How many gun murders were there?
Oh, you're going to ban your fist now?
In Britain last year.
How many chimpanzees can dance on the head of a pin? I already went over those statistics.
Do you know the answer?
No, I don't.
You said hundreds.
It's very low.
You said hundreds.
Yes.
It's actually 35.
Well, the point is you can...
Against 11,000. Do you understand the difference between 11,000
Yeah, England
and
wants
35?
to ban knives now because tens of thousands are getting stabbed.
Right. But do you understand
ban
the
knives?
difference?
The knife doesn't kill people.
Do you understand?
The gun doesn't kill people.
Yes.
Listen, do you understand
between 35
you're not going to pull on America's
and 11,000.
heartstrings? They know your script, okay? You're not going to get our guns. By the way, you guys always say, we just want to take the semi-autos, okay, and all this other stuff. When semi-autos aren't even, rifles aren't even used, but in a fraction of the crimes, you can pull those numbers up, okay? Hold on.
Let me ask you one question. Which weapon was predominantly used in the Aurora movie theater shooting?
M4 AR-15 variants.
So it was a semi-automatic assault rifle.
Again.
Okay.
But statistically, it's very, very low.
Do you agree it was the single biggest shooting in the history of America in terms of people hit by a shooter? Do you know that?
No, I believe that there were others. There's been some other shootings with about over 30.
No, this was the single biggest mass shooting.
Well, listen, you're just going... No, there have been bombings of Wall Street.
Let me ask you a second question.
Are we going to... Listen, why can't the pilots have firearms?
Alex,
we trust them to fly the planes.
Alex, you've had a lot to say.
No, my point is the Second Amendment is sacrosanct, and you're not getting it.
Do you know which weapon was used in the Oregon shopping mall mass shooting recently?
I understand that people... who are mentally ill on all the serotonin reuptake inhibitors, who play these shoot-em-up games, want to go out and do this. Because there's criminals, I don't lose my rights, Pierce. Because there's criminals, I don't lose my rights.
Just answer the question.
Yeah.
Do you know what the weapon used was?
Listen, let me ask you a question.
No, answer.
I've got the FBI statistics that, that these so-called semi-autos that you talk about.
Let's take a break. When we come back.
Again, you're not going to get our guns.
When we come back, try and answer my question.
Yeah, all you're going to do is sit there and play little factoid questions. Overall crime's gone up over 20%. More
Back now with Alex Jones. A man says I should be deported for my stand on guns. So, Alex, here's how this is going to work, and it's entirely down to you. I'm going to ask you some questions in the spirit of a proper debate, and you've had a lot to say so far on the show, and a lot of it aimed at me, which is fine. But I want you to try and answer the questions. It's a proper debate, okay? I'm not trying to trip you up.
No, it's not a debate. You're running the show. You bring in your victims up front.
Actually, no.
Look, you got your little note cards. I just gave you FBI statistics that violent crime and gun crime is down over 20%.
Alex, let me just ask you
this. You want to go to little factoids.
No, they're not little
Anybody
factoids.
can pull those up. Listen.
Do you know what...
Do you have a bodyguard?
Alex.
Why do you have bodyguards?
I don't have a bodyguard.
Yeah, I've seen you on the news with them. Don't you want to protect your wife from hoodlums, or you want to call the police?
Let me ask you this question.
Why does Dianne Feinstein tell 60 Minutes that she plans to try to take Mr. and Mrs. America's guns? Have you seen that?
Over me.
You guys want to disarm all of America.
No, I don't.
Dianne Feinstein's bill does.
I don't.
Gun confiscation.
No, let me clarify for you. You don't seem to understand
First you register, then you confiscate. It's always done the same.
Here's what the campaign on this
Well, here, give me your little cue cards and I'll answer your questions for you.
What was the weapon used at Sandy Hook?
I've already gone over that and already answered it for you.
We haven't talked about Sandy Hook.
No, again,
what was the weapon?
It's a 223 M4.
Right.
Again, but statistically, they're using very low percentage of shootings, period.
Are you seeing
people wouldn't go swimming because the movie Jaws, even though great white sharks kill 5 people a year. You're trying to scare people.
Let me say something.
There's no metal shark in the water.
The same type of weapon was used in the last 3 mass shootings.
And Hitler used semi-autos to kill people.
Why would you not?
And so did Mao.
Why would you?
Why is the government arming to the teeth against us?
Alex, I don't
What about Fast and Furious?
Alex,
why do our government ship guns into
down.
Mexico?
Alex.
To blame the Second Amendment?
Let's have a debate.
A false flag?
Alex.
To blame the Second Amendment?
I get accused.
Why'd they blow up Building 7 down the street here in New York?
I get accused when I get you guys on of talking over you, of being rude. I'm trying to be civil, right? You've got to try and answer some of the questions, right? Here's my issue for you. Why do people civilians need an AR-15 type assault rifle? Why
I already said statistically they're used in a very low amount of the crimes. That's an FBI fact.
They've been used in the last 3 mass shootings.
Yes.
Why?
I'll tell you why. Because they advertise it in the media. Anybody knows that if somebody jumps off the Empire State Building, they put cops up there the next day because copycats come to do it again. The media hypes and hypes and hypes.
And that's not the question.
Don't just commit suicide.
Alex, why do people
commit suicide by killing a bunch of kids, and here's the gun to use because it's the one the U.S. Army uses.
Why do people need them?
They need them to protect us from the #1 killer in history. Government in the 20th century, university study out of Hawaii killed 292 million people. It's called democide. Google it, folks.
Do you believe everyone in America should everyone in America therefore have an AR-15 if they want one?
Statistically, where there's more guns, there's lower crime. The highest crime is in Bloomberg,
But you have the most
controlled
guns
areas.
of any of the 23 richest countries in the world, and you have
Well, America was born on guns and whiskey.
Right, but
it's true we're a violent society.
Right. So you
but
accept that America
statistically,
has the most
knives
guns
kill
and the
3
most gun
times more.
murders.
Have you seen the FBI numbers? Knives, bats, rocks kill many times more.
Alex, let's talk about the guns.
It's not the rock. It's not the knife. When a mother chops her kids up with a cleaver because she's on serotonin.
Tell me why I'm wrong.
Why don't you want to get rid of the
AR-15s?
drugs? Because they're half your sponsors?
Stick to the subject.
America's #1 cause of unnatural death now is suicide.
Alex,
not automobile accident, not cancer,
Listen, accuse me of attacking the Second Amendment of the Constitution.
I want to get people off pills that the insert says will make you commit suicide and kill people.
Alex, let's get about to the Second Amendment.
I want to blame the real culprit. Suicide pills. Mass murder pills.
Okay, let me ask you one question. Your belief, unless I'm wrong.
First time anybody's ever heard this, by the way.
Your belief, unless I'm wrong, is that under the Second Amendment, your real concern is that you will be overrun by a tyrannical regime, either from somewhere else or
highway
from your own government.
checkpoints. Look at Mexico. Total gun ban for the citizens. Highest crime rate in the world. 57,000 people dead the last 5 years. Total gun ban for the citizens.
But
Switzerland has the lowest crime rate in Europe. Your country has the highest.
Alex, we have 35 gun murders a year. You have 11,000.
You people get their brains. It's the higher crime rate.
Let me ask
Violent crime is higher.
On this specific...
It's brains.
Alex,
it's people.
I'm trying to get inside your brains.
Pierce,
it's
if
not
you punched me
easy.
right now, it'd be not your fist, but your brain that did it.
Let me get inside your brain.
Okay.
Okay? I'm serious. You have a very, very big platform. You air, I think, on 63 networks.
No, that Wikipedia is like 10 years old. I'm on over 140 stations, XM.
Millions of Americans hear you
over 1.5 million
day.
visitors to Infowars.com
and I
today,
congratulate
where we have the
you on your
statistics
audience.
posted right now, Infowars.com.
Who do you believe was behind 9/11?
Oh, I absolutely know. I have the police on CNN saying, get back, they're going to blow up 7. I have BBC reporting.
Who do you believe is behind
I have the proof. I heard them on CBS Radio.
Who, Alex?
They announced they blew up the towers on CBS Radio.
Who do you believe?
New Yorkers all saw it and heard it.
Alex, who do you believe?
They blew up Building 7.
Alex, who do you believe was behind it? The American government?
Criminal elements of the military-industrial complex, the same ones that staged Gulf of Tonkin, the same ones that staged the mass shootings of Operation Gladio.
Right.
Ooh, the CIA don't like this right now.
Do you mean that President Bush and his administration were behind 9/11?
I mean that even mainstream news reported that the hijackers were ordered to be allowed into the United States. Michael Springman, the head of the Visa Department, blew the whistle on that.
So the Bush administration was part of a conspiracy
he said never let us tolerate
to murder Americans.
I can speak in this accent as well.
Yeah.
The
but is that what you
government,
believe?
Hitler firebombed his own Reichstag, Pierce, to bring in martial law in Germany, April 27th, 1933. Governments have staged terror attacks throughout history or allowed terrorists to attack as a pretext to invade and enslave the populations. I probably own more than 50 firearms. Many of them have increased in value 2, 3, or even 4 times. I sleep very comfortably outside Austin, Texas, knowing that I can defend my family.
Okay, Alex Jones. This is
Infowars.com.
This is the man who wants to deport me from the country for wanting to get rid of
it's to point out you're a foreigner, a red coat, here telling us what to do.
Whatever.
Go back to where they took the guns if you don't like it. The communists...
It's like in... I'm very disappointed in Richard Linklater. I think that's the director's name, who like...
Death and taxes. Don't talk about politics or religion. This is all the equivalent of enemy propaganda rolling across the picket line. Lay down, GI. Lay down, GI. We saw it all through the 20th century. And now in the 21st century, it's time to stand up and realize that we should not allow ourselves to be crammed into this rat maze. We should not submit to dehumanization. I don't know about you, but I'm concerned with what's happening in this world. I'm concerned with the structure. I'm concerned with the systems of control. Those that control my life and those that seek to control it even more. I want freedom. That's what I want, and that's what you should want. It's up to each and every one of us to turn loose of just some of the greed, the hatred, the envy, and yes, the insecurities, because that is the central mode of control. Make us feel pathetic, small, so we'll willingly give up our sovereignty, our liberty, our destiny. We have got to realize that we're being conditioned on a mass scale. Start challenging this corporate slave state. The 21st century is going to be a new century. Not the century of slavery, not the century of lies and issues of no significance and classism and statism and all the rest of the modes of control. It's going to be the age of humankind standing up for something pure and something right. What a bunch of garbage, liberal, Democrat, conservative, Republican. It's all there to control you, two sides of the same coin. Two management teams bidding for control, the CEO job of Slavery Incorporated. The truth is out there in front of you, but they lay out this buffet of lies. I'm sick of it, and I'm not going to take a bite out of it. Do you got me? Resistance is not futile. We're going to win this thing. Humankind is too good. We're not a bunch of underachievers. We're going to stand up, and we're going to be human beings. We're going to get fired up about the real things, the things that matter, creativity, and the dynamic human spirit that refuses to submit. Well, that's it. That's all I got to say. It's in your court.
He makes these movies that are very innovative and creative and artistic, but he comes from that Dallas, Texas milieu or whatever, and like
I think Austin, Texas,
whatever. And it's a big state, right? I can't remember every place, but
where did Substance D come from? Why can't we stop it? The bigger this war gets, the more freedoms we lose, the more Substance D is on our streets. Can't you figure this out? Look around you. Look how far we've come. Humanity wasn't meant to live like this. Our every waking moment, tracked and traced and scanned. It's time to stop submitting to this tyranny. It's time to realize that we're being enslaved. Uh-oh, it's our tax dollars at work. Protect us from ourselves. Hey guys, I used to be one of you. Stop selling out your own species.
Hey! Get in!
Let's see. I think I had a student one time. I think I had a girl in class one time or something, and oh boy, I don't know if I should even say this. And I like to make jokes in class or whatever. I make stupid jokes, and so she had I was in America one time. I was like, oh, okay, where were you? She's like, I was down in Texas, and I was like, is everything bigger in Texas? So, I don't know. There was something about she had a boyfriend there or something, and it worked.
See, this is the type of thing, if it was like typed out in a deposition, wouldn't sound great, but these are all adult classes. People appreciate my wit, I think. Some of my best friends are
doing time in school. Yeah, I don't know. Like I'm trying to think of what other kind of back and forths I've had with people recently in the classroom that have been entertaining. Because every day people say something. Like usually at the 6:30 class, we're all really sleepy until like I tell a stupid joke. I think somebody was telling me one time, like they said, I had 2 rooms in my house. I said, like, is that a metaphor? I said, huh? I said, never mind. Because it was like really weird how they were emphasizing that they had 2 rooms in their house. I thought it was like a sex joke or something. I don't know. Let's see. Okay, the other day, this woman was saying, one of friends is going to the pole dancing academy. I said, does this friend have a phone number? And I laughed a little bit. And she said, she's unmarried now. When she gets married, she wants to pole dance at the ceremony. And I said, whoa. I said, her new stepmother is going to be saying, cancel the wedding now. Like, some Korean women go to these, like, pole dancing academies. Like, there's no strip clubs in Korea, to my knowledge. If there are, somebody get at me. But, but like some young women and middle-aged women seem to think that like going to pole dancing academy is just like kind of like Pilates or something. It's just like this exercise you can do. But obviously in America there's this whole other connotation to it. So yeah. So she wants to pole dance at her wedding. More power to her, I say. But I don't know.
That's okay, child. When you're back in America, we'll go up to Kokomo and you can go to the Hip Hugger. Is that? I'm sure that's a fine establishment. Oh, it's apparently very well known throughout the state.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
I heard I think I saw some local news from Bloomington, Indiana, that like Night Moves was closing down or something, right?
Yeah, it's like it's a whole another place now. Mm-hmm.
What was the justification of that?
Okay, so Night Moves was the one right off of Walnut, right, or College or whatever.
Like south, yes. Yeah,
what was that one that we went to that was kind of set back from the street a little bit near that area?
Yeah, on the left side of the street, right? Kind of like the west side of the street, right?
Yeah. That one.
That was Night.
No, it was. I know which one Night Moves is. That was the one. Someone we know that won't be named worked at.
Oh yeah. I thought that was that place. Maybe
was it that other place? Yeah, that was. Hold on, that was that other place, wasn't it? Okay, well the other place, not Night Moves, burned down. And Ash and I just happened to be in Bloomington the night it happened. No, not that we didn't have anything to do with it, but
police are taxing into this.
But we were happy. We just happened to drive by.
I got a lead on the Night Moves fire. We thought it was a cold case, fresh.
We're turning over new leads.
2 suspects. Yeah.
Has the statute of limitations run out on that one?
Yeah. So why'd that place burn down? Too much sin for Southern Indiana? Did it get too hot in there? Somebody, Candy was tearing up the pole. What the hell was going on?
Try to peddle your sin now.
Yeah, I'm going to admit that I've been in strip clubs like probably twice in my life, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to remember the context was one time we were invited by a fellow friend in college, a friend of a friend who was a roommate of a friend who was perhaps doing some research for certain
academic.
She was,
yeah.
There was a justification for it, and I believe that. It's a cliche sometimes. I was just trying to make money or whatever. I think there was actually there was an academic purpose to all the.
Did you allegedly read the product of that, or was it all a dream?
I don't understand. No, I never read it, but I believe it exists. I have to believe. What if it was all just a lie?
I don't mean to be conspiracy theorist about it or anything, but
yeah, the Trilateral Commission.
Oh God, the Bilderbergs had something to do with it.
The Bilderberg booty shaking. Yeah, I need to drink me some Super Male Vitality. Head back up in there. Oh boy. So that was one. Okay, that was one instance. We were invited to see a friend of a friend perform, And I think the other time was a certain college friend's birthday, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps an individual that you and your wife may not be on speaking terms with anymore.
Yes,
You know
I
what I'm
remember.
saying?
I remember.
Yeah. But anyways, I think on his 21st birthday, and I'll say this, he had a much better 21st birthday than I did. Because I remember I think you and Ben Smith were living out there down on the southwest side of Bloomington there when this happened, when I turned 21. And we came over there to your house that night. And I was all pumped, because it was like my 21st birthday, and we're going to go out, and we're going to go down to Walnut and Kirkwood and whatever. We're going to do it big. And then, I think your roommate he didn't want to do it. He didn't want to drive us. He didn't want to go that night. So we ended up drinking at the house, which was, to be real, in college, that was nothing new for me even before I was 21. So it was kind of a letdown. We went out the next night, I think. But a certain other individual who we were roommates with at one point, we took him to a strip club on his 21st birthday, I think I remember. But I think he was totally disgusted by the transactionality of it all. Mm-hmm. He didn't like the fantasy with the money mixing and everything. And I can understand that. I mean, it's not necessary. I don't think it's really my cup of tea either. So, but that's kind of what I remember about that night.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, it is 5 o'clock in the morning over here.
Oh boy. I think sounds like your babies are sleeping tonight. That's good, right? Yeah, I listened to your podcast the other day about the birth of your daughter, and it sounds like she's been really wearing out your son, right?
Oh yeah,
worn out these days.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah, he's very interested in her. Yeah, he's not the only one anymore.
I understand the thing. I think I was a little jealous of my younger Ben when he was born or whatever. I think I understand that older sibling, hey, what the hell? I'm not the center of attention anymore. Mm-hmm. I think I can understand that. So, but
he likes her though. I mean, he's not mad at her, but he's definitely jarred. So
maybe it'll be different because it's a sister rather than a brother. I think
right? Yeah, I guess that's a good point.
I think the same sex is something you kind of have this natural competitiveness, but maybe like brothers and sisters, I don't know. He'll do the protective older brother thing or something like that, or he'll find ways to take responsibility. There was some. Okay, have you seen? There's a new movie you may want to take the kid to see, or take him to see it. I don't know, or maybe get it on DVD or something. It's Baby Boss or Boss Baby or something.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
I watched I was at the high school the other day, and we couldn't teach a class that day because the other classes were not coming, and so one class was there or something. So we ended up watching a movie, and one of the girls had Boss Baby on her USB or something. So we played that, and it was all about this kid who finds out that his parents have another baby who's coming along, and the baby how the new baby is kind of like the boss. And I'm just thinking this might be, I don't know how much narrative Harper can absorb at this point. If it's a kid's movie, it's an animated kind of Pixar looking almost. I don't know who made it, but it's definitely about this topic about an older brother dealing with a new sibling. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the subject matter. So that might be a good movie for him, perhaps.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, was there anything else we didn't cover? I think we covered a lot.
We did cover a lot. I realized I think we were laser focused at the beginning, and we had a lot to get to, and then at the end we kind of we went around to a lot of different things, which is, I think that's okay. Although I feel guilty. I realize you have to put in a lot of work in post production or whatever every time we do this, and every time I go off on a rant or tell a lurid story or say the wrong word or something, it probably adds another 45 minutes to editing time. But thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Well, I've got a dossier on Cha if anyone ever needs it. Yeah, of all the incriminating things.
Yeah, my future presidential run is in shambles. Although after Trump, who
knows? Yeah, maybe a requirement.
Maybe I'll put this on my resume probably at that point.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then I went on Bob Burgess' show and I said some shit that the social justice warriors just weren't ready to hear. Okay.
That's how you know I'm real.
Yeah, real talk. Too real. Yeah. Anyways, well, Bob, I'll let you get to sleep there. But yeah, thanks for doing the episode, and I hope that we, hopefully it's timely. Hopefully people appreciate it. Hopefully people are also. I hope everybody in America and around the world is thinking about some of the issues that we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby Brown,
especially the strip clubs.
Yeah, yeah. I was listening to some T-Pain the other day. I'm in love with a stripper, and then he had like the bartender. I love the bartender. I mean, like this. He just loved women in the service industry.
You need to listen to his Tiny Desk concert. He does a cappella.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he goes hard.
I think T-Pain, like everybody bitched and moaned about the auto-tune, but I mean, what he was doing had a little soul to it. He did some good music.
He's just fine without it. So I mean, yes, it's an enhancement, but it's not because he's like lacking. It's just, it's an extra little thing,
Yeah, it's kind of his style or his thing, but yeah, like I'm Sprung. I mean, that was legitimately a good song. I mean, I think it goes. I'm Sprung was top, Bartender was second, and maybe I'm in Love with a Stripper was like maybe a distant third. I didn't think that one had as much musicality to it, but anyways, yeah. Well, anyways, Bob, I'm very appreciative of your time here, and I'm going to let you get some sleep. But, yeah, thanks again for calling. I know we still got to do the Bill O'Reilly, the Those Who Trespass episode, so people need to be watching for that to drop in sometime in the future here.
Yeah, definitely.
And, yeah.
Just gives them more time to absorb the misdeeds of Shannon Michaels.
Oh, yes, and then finally his comeuppance, the final bifurcating of the Bill O'Reilly psyche that was split between these two opposite. We're going to get all this. We're going to get to all the psychoanalyzing now, but the audience, our dear listeners, just need to catch up on their reading. Okay, so take this extra time that we're giving you consciously and do the reading, right? Like I tell my students, do your homework.
Absolutely,
it'll all make more sense then.
Absolutely, Ashley Van Buren wouldn't have it any other way.
Oh yeah, that was a girl who always did her homework. So, all right. Well, Bob, have a good night there, and we'll talk to you soon. Okay.
All right. Later on.
Bye-bye.
If you enjoy this podcast, there are several ways to support it. I have a Patreon account, which can be found at www.patreon.com/Rob Burgess Show Patreon. I hope you'll consider supporting in any amount. Also, please make sure to comment, follow, like, subscribe, share, rate, and review the podcast everywhere it's available, which includes iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play Music, Facebook, Twitter, Internet Archive, TuneIn, and RSS. It really helps. The official website for the podcast is www.therobburgesshow.com. You can find out more about me by visiting my website, www.thisburgess.com. Until next time.